News Weekly.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is episode 145 in year 3, and we don't got shit to talk about today. We do have a little bit of Joker 2 rumors and news that we're going to dive into, and then we're going to talk about something that happened on my TikTok that has to do with Batman, and something we've definitely talked about on this podcast before, which is the battle between comics and manga and how things should change, because this time, instead of just giving what our thoughts are, we have a whole pool of about like 60 plus comments to pull from this video that I made on my YouTube channel. I posted a little bit of it on TikTok. And a lot of people have their own opinions on what could or could not work with the whole manga versus comic debate, which I think is pretty interesting. Of course, we got some viewer questions, and then we are going to knock this out with some comic books, which I'm going to say our biggest talking point is probably going to be something that I'm mad about. This week. This is something I mentioned like 2 weeks ago, that something pissed me off that is happening in this week's comics that I really want to talk about. And a lot of people are like, oh man, I'm worried about Juice's, because I keep saying I'm not optimistic about the future of Batman. Yeah. And we're going to finally be able to talk about a little bit about it today. So there's that. But let's go ahead and start off with just this quick thing about Joker 2 rumors. Obviously, nothing is solidified right now. But Clay, you were mentioning something about young Bruce Wayne or something?
Yeah, there was some rumors around the script saying that there is going to be a young Bruce Wayne, and not in the sense of what we see Bruce Wayne to be in comics or in movies or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
This sounds like a Bruce Wayne that is basically like in the sense of wanting to become something like a Batman, but hasn't really fully thought out the idea about it.
Yeah.
And so he's just like on the streets of Gotham.
Okay.
I don't know if he's like gonna be like freaking, well, because of the way Joker is, like that theme and how the characters are. I know that Joaquin Phoenix's Arthur Fleck dressed up like a clown and became the Joker.
Yeah.
But I can't see a Bruce Wayne donning a costume in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So is he just going to be a dude in a ski mask or in a hockey mask? Is he going to have
Noir from The Boys? Yeah.
Is he going to be just like this very stereotypical like thug, like a biker thug, like with the leather jacket and stuff, and beating up bad guys in the back alleys and stuff?
Is he going to be Pattinson's Bruce Wayne essentially?
Yeah. Honestly,
has a motorcycle, all that kind of shit.
But the big talking point here is that he is a vigilante, but not the vigilante we all know and love yet. He isn't Batman, but he's growing to the idea of what Batman will become.
Mm-hmm.
And this is exactly what we didn't want.
Yeah.
This, like, if you're gonna make a Joker story, make a Joker story. Like, you made it, like, yes, the Waynes were involved, but Bruce wasn't at the heart of it. It was Joker. Yeah. You were able to prove us wrong and say, hey, I can make a Joker without a Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I would, sorry, my throat's a little scratchy there. It's, here's the biggest thing. When I heard this, because I think you posted it in Discord, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I automatically was like, oh, great, another Batman. Like, we don't need another fucking Batman to be cast right now. Because I would assume we're going to get a younger Batman at some point in the DCEU. Like, I just think that's going to happen. Yeah. Maybe it's not going to happen until the Crisis event, if that is what's going to happen with the rumors. Especially if Keaton's Batman is going to be in every movie, it seems like he is going to be the Nick Fury. I just don't see them. It would be really weird to roll with Keaton going forward. I do genuinely think we're going to get a younger Batman at some point. So that means we would have had Affleck, Keaton, Pattinson, whoever's going to be in this Joker, and a newer Batman 5 Batman in the span of what, fucking 5, 10 years? Like, that's insane.
2016, almost 6 years. Yeah, 7 years.
Yeah, that's insanity. You shouldn't have 5 different Batmen in a 10-year decade. You know what I mean? It should be one guy playing Batman for 10 years.
I mean, at at the point of Bale, we had 6 Batmen over 6 years. I mean, sorry, over 10 years.
Yeah.
But within 10 years, we're about to have another 6 Batmen.
But the thing I think that's different between the whole Bale thing was because I'm assuming you're counting like Clooney and all them.
Yeah.
That those Batmen were all the same Batman.
Yes,
You
technically
know?
yes. It's supposed to be like all the way from Keaton's Batman to Clooney's Batman. It's
Yeah.
technically all supposed to be the same Batman all the way through,
Yes.
which they didn't really do a great job in connecting from
Oh, of course
Keaton
not.
to Kilmer, because
Yeah.
I could definitely see Kilmer to Clooney being the same Batman,
Hmm.
but from Keaton to Kilmer, it's like a
Yeah.
whole new ball game, you know?
For sure. I mean, that was the 90s, so they weren't really giving a shit about continuity and things making sense. You know what I mean? They were like, people don't know what superhero things are about. Let's just make a movie. Um, so yeah, that was definitely, they didn't give a fuck back then. But I don't know, man. Like I said, we're getting kind of Batmaned out with a lot of things, and I just don't want another Batman on screen unless it's going to be something big and we're gonna see him for a long time. Like I am tired, and this is why I think you cast a younger person. You
Yeah.
cast a younger person, and even if they're not the greatest actor in the world, like because obviously when people go see Batman, they're gonna want to see like some hardcore fights and like some good action and all that kind of jazz. Like Pattinson is a good actor, but you didn't give me what I wanted in a Batman film. I
Yeah.
made this joke. I mean, it's actually not a joke. It's genuine, like factual stuff. I tried to watch the Batman recently. I watched all the Doctor Who season 13, and I was like, I was working. And I was like, I want to throw something on in the background. And what I usually do, and this is a bad thing that I do, is if I am really enjoying something like Doctor Who, I'll have it on the side on like a monitor or something like that. And then when a good part comes up, I'm just like watching that good part for like 20 minutes. And I'm like, fuck, I didn't do any work. And so the Batman comes on, and I'm watching it. And I don't give a fuck about the Riddler part at the start. I'm just like, that's stupid. I hated it. But then when he starts monologuing, when freaking Bruce Wayne starts monologuing, you're like, oh fuck, like the shadows of Gotham. And I'm like, oh, this is fucking dope. The moment he comes out of the shadows and starts fighting, I turned it off. I was like, this fighting is so boring, dude. And so yeah, I just couldn't get into it. So I'm just like, I've tried, guys. I've tried twice now to finish that, to start that movie, and I've gotten to him fighting in the subway. That's the first, what, 10, 20
20
minutes.
minutes.
Um, so yeah, but that first part's cool. The monologue part is cool. I'll give you that. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like I a lot of people didn't like Affleck, right? Before BVS, everybody thought Affleck was a shit actor. Everybody.
Yeah.
Like, and and then after that, it's like, oh, he's actually, he's an amazing director and this and that. And everybody was sucking on his dick after that Batman. And I was just like, yeah, he was the Batman I wanted. Like, that was fucking awesome. So I don't think you need like an A-list superstar actor to be Batman. You need somebody that's going to be there for a long time. You know,
Yeah.
maybe not go as crazy as somebody like an Ezra Miller. Maybe vet the person, be like, hey, let's check their social medias. Let's see if he's got any farms anywhere.
Jesus
Let's see if he's
Christ.
got any cult like tendencies before we put him in the cow. Because DC has been hit or miss, and not hit or miss. They've been fucking failing on so many things.
Yeah.
You post. I think you posted the meme where they had the shot of the Justice League, and it's only Gal Gadot and Jason
And
Momoa
just
left.
Momoa.
And if I'm not mistaken, Jason Momoa was probably the first one cast out of that whole thing, besides Henry Cavill, out of that whole like
uh
group, right?
no, it was Henry, Ben, and then uh
Because before BVS had even come out, he said like it was pitched to him like years ago, and like I remember there's a Kimmel interview. I think he's talking with Jimmy Kimmel where he talks about he's known he's going to be Aquaman for like 4 years.
okay, because I know. Oh, maybe he was then. Maybe it was him. They approached him for Aquaman, then they
Yeah.
approached Ben
Yeah.
for Batman, because I know that Gal wasn't approached until after Ben was
Yeah.
approached for Batman.
Yeah. So, and it's funny, the thing is it would be really weird for me to see Gal Gadot not continue as Wonder Woman after like Wonder Woman 3. She might go on. I mean, Gal Gadot, depending on how she plays her cards right, I don't think she's a bad actress. She's not a fucking Oscar award winning type of actress, in my opinion. She's gorgeous, so I think a lot of people will put her in there to be like, oh yeah, we want you to be this person in movies. That happens a lot in Hollywood. And then they kind of did that with Margot Robbie, but then Margot Robbie was like, oh no, I'm actually also a fucking great actress. And so like she's been able to get some better roles. Although, have you seen the photos of Barbie?
Oh, recently?
Yeah, bro. Th- Ken, I did not think you could make Ryan Gosling whiter. Like that blew my mind. I was just like, "Whoa."
No, I've
Uh
seen the meme. I've seen the meme. So I don't know if you've seen the new Ryan Gosling Blade Runner. Have you seen it?
no, no. You can spoil it if there's
Okay.
spoilers. I don't
No,
care.
no. So there's a scene where and you'll like this part, where he's looking at the hologram and it's Ana de Armas and she's like fully
Oh, yeah.
naked. So
Nice.
uh
I'll watch it tomorrow.
so the meme is Ryan Gosling, he's all beat up. He has like bandages on his nose, it's broken, he's bleeding from the face or whatever. And he's supposed to be looking at Ana de Armas, but they replaced it with his bleach blonde kin.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
he looks just like super pissed. Just like, dude, when those photos came out of Ryan Gosling, I was like, holy shit, like that is some
Yeah.
blonde hair, man.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like white. I was like,
Yeah.
that's not blonde, man. That is white. So yeah, that was interesting when I saw that. He looks great though. I mean, neck down. I mean, he looks like he's fucking cut and shit, but like, man, I was like, bro, why? Does Ken even have that? I could have swore Ken had like brown hair, but I guess I'm wrong there. Yeah, I just thought that was crazy. But anyways, I do think that if we are gonna get another Batman, like we just need to happen in the DCEU, and I don't care. You know what would be great for the Joker is to fight against the you can't have Joker without Batman. He should kill Bruce Wayne in this movie.
Ooh, I would
You
like that.
know? He should kill him, and that way we have no Bruce Wayne in the third movie, and then it's just Joker doing whatever he does on the thing. I wouldn't mind, like, and I know we always talk about like, oh, don't reuse characters and bring in somebody new. I wouldn't mind the third movie being him facing another villain that shows up in the world, like a Two-Face or something. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because I think you could do a very serious Two-Face type of thing, which would be kind of cool. I think the Scarecrow's a little too easy. Riddler, I don't want that. And yeah, I don't know. But I would love to see him kill Bruce Wayne in this movie
Oh,
to
you know
just kind
what?
of break that.
Just because of the idea of like how Arthur Fleck was like a failed comedian,
Mhm.
you should do a failed ventriloquist with Scarface.
That would be cool. That
That
would be
would be
cool.
dope.
Yeah, so I don't know. But I still kind of like the idea we were fucking throwing around where they turn it into a comedy or something on the third one. Like, just change the genres. Because again, like I said last week, if you pull this musical off, then you've done something fresh and new that's never been done in films, or like that hasn't been done in a long time, right? I guarantee you would start seeing copycats of this. People would start making like serious movies and comedy movies, and it would be all the same movie but different. You know what I mean?
But
Uh,
and we said it also, like the real wild thing about this, it's a musical within the superhero genre
yeah,
and the
yeah,
comic book genre, because Joker isn't a superhero. But you know what I mean.
for
And
sure.
this is kind of what we were talking about of like what Black Label should be anyway, is
Mhm.
you take genres of great films, you look at Oscar nominees and Oscar winners,
Yeah,
and then just put superheroes in it.
for sure. I would often laugh when I hear people say like, "Oh my god, how are you gonna do this?" I'm like, "Bro, have you not seen like the animated versions of Harley Quinn? She's like saying multiple times.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. There's that
Oh,
one. I think.
did you know that Harley Quinn season 3 is supposed to be coming out like this summer?
Really? What the
Yes.
hell? Oh, wow. I mean, they were still animating it during fandom. Like, it was, like, in black and white still.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty interesting. I did not know about that. But yeah, the animated series, I don't think she sang in her show, but she has sang in the animated series when she is working with Batman and Robin at one point, and they're trying to get away from some mobster. And then she also sang in the pretty bad Batman and Harley Quinn movie.
Oh
So she
yeah.
sang in that too because they went to some like villain bar and they sang in there. So Harley Quinn has, and if I'm not mistaken, wasn't I forget her actual name, the original Harley Quinn? Was she not like a singer or something?
Oh,
Um,
before
yeah, I know she
oh
was definitely an actress. I don't know if she had any
yeah, yeah,
vocal
yeah.
training or singing stuff, but she always had a unique voice. So I forget her name, man, but she has a very unique name too. Um, and I hate that I'm forgetting it right now, but either way, Arlene Sorkin,
Yes.
right? Something like that, right?
Yeah.
I forget. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're going for there. But yeah, I don't want another Bruce Wayne, but it doesn't, they kind of hinted that at the end of the movie. It would just be funny if he goes and finds the guy that killed his parents eventually, and he's like, "You killed my parents," and then the guy kills him. He's like, "Well, I'll fucking finish you off now that you're older, kid." Like, you know, just like what the fuck? It's realism, right? Not everybody gets the revenge they want. Sometimes you just
Yeah.
get fucked up when you go looking for trouble. But anyway, so that's Young Joker. But let's go Young Joker, like it's Young Sheldon. What the fuck? Young Bruce Wayne in Joker. But let's go ahead and move on to this craziness that I wasn't expecting for us to talk about this, but I started doing this new thing on TikTok where I am posting snippets of my longer form YouTube videos on TikTok for, because there's some people that just don't use YouTube anymore and they just like stay on TikTok, which TikTok gets really boring for me at times because it's the same shit or the same people talking about the same shit. I don't know. I want to change my For You page because it's the same shit. Or it's like politics, which I'm tired of, and fucking like relationship advice. I'm like, bro, don't throw that in my face right now. And like but it's bad relationship advice. And I was like, I don't want to hear all
Yeah.
this shit. I'm just like, y'all don't know what the fuck y'all are talking about. So I'm like, I'm disliking or I'm like, downvoting everything or whatever it's called. Like you can put not interested or some shit. I've
Yeah.
just been putting not interested on so many videos and my For You page is like slowly changing. But I do everything on my YouTube page, on my TikTok page, and my YouTube, to be honest. But I made a video a while back talking about why manga versus America, like why manga is better than American comic books or whatever. And it wasn't like, oh, the stories are so much more engaging and stuff like that. No, I came at it from a perspective of there are hentais out here, or I should say dojins or dojinshis or whatever they're called, that are being made and they're doing crazy anime level promotions to just promote a book. Like they're making these small little anime trailers and it's amazing. Everybody's like, "Oh my god, it's going to be a new anime." It's like, "No, it's just so you can go buy our book," which was insane. And I compared it to what America does. And I showed the new Batman trailer for Zdarsky's run and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, just all they do is they take a photo from the book, they add motion to it, maybe some different layers, and they're like, yeah. And that's as far as they go to promote the books. And I've just kind of we talked about this on the podcast a million times. We think comics needs to change to become better, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about we think it needs to go more the graphic novel route. The single issues need to die. All these kind of things. We've talked about going digital comics. We have some people in Discord that are not fans of that idea, which is fair. Not everybody wants to read it. Although I have said reading anything on your phone when it comes to comic books is pretty shit. I think if you're going to read comic books, you need an iPad. You need some kind of tablet, in my opinion, to have
Yeah.
a better experience. But yeah, anyways, so I posted one of these videos and I was talking about Batman and stuff like that, and we got a bunch of comments. And I don't know if you've picked out any ones in particular that you think are interesting, but I mean, there's just so many to go through. This is one of the first ones this is the top comment that has the most likes on it. Also, manga has a beginning and end where they move on creatively after the series ends. They don't rehash or just keep on rebooting the series. It's exhausting and definitely not friendly to those who are starting out to read comic books. That is something we've talked about, right? Like,
Yeah.
comics reboots every 4 or 5 years, and nobody knows where to start. We have had people that have been on my channel, in my live streams, or just people that we've met have been like, yeah, man, I like the movies, but I have no idea where to start. Like, where do I start reading? And we always kind of just be like, dude, dive in at New 52, Scott Snyder's run, you'll be fine. But, I mean, as we're seeing with what happened from Tom King to James Tynion, like, although that is supposed to be a continued run, it doesn't feel like a continued run at all. And that is where a lot of people dropped off of Batman, right? And I feel like, I don't know, I think some people might say, you're just not going to keep a writer on for that long. You know what I mean? And that could be a problem.
Yeah.
But I think that's where we were saying, well, that's why you start making series like solidified, like hey, this writer's going to be on for 50 issues and that's it. But you're only going to get 10 issues at a time. You know what I mean? Or you're going to get it in this, you're going to get it in small doses or whatever. And I kind of think that's the route it needs to go. Or you continue it like, I don't know. Do you think we need to start like locking in a writer for X amount of years? Or do you think whoever's in control at DC, when we bring in a new writer, it's no longer you get to do whatever the fuck you want. We have to keep this in a progressive timeline.
See, so this is the hard thing when it comes to that idea. Because I once thought that. I said, I can't remember where I said it, or maybe I was voicing my opinion on Twitter or whatnot, but I thought, why could it not be like, why is it so hard for the company to be like, okay, Batman needs to, in the next 3 years, do X or go through A through Z for 5 years. And then, this writer goes from A to B, this writer goes from B to E, this writer goes from E to G, and just go on and so forth, but still continuing that story. And technically, people can say, oh, that's exactly what they do. The only thing is, it is the same Batman. The Batman that I am reading today, that we just finished with Williamson, is technically, quote unquote, the same Batman from Tynion, which is the same Batman from King's Run, which is the same Batman from Snyder's Run. That's how it's supposed to work. But because the writing styles are so different, the story arcs and progression of the character is so different, it's hard to really say this is the same Batman, other than the fact that they live in the same world and reference those other stories every once in a while.
Yeah.
You know?
I would argue that just in Jeff Johns' Flashpoint Beyond has referenced other issues more than the current Batman runs.
Yes.
Which is sad. And it's like small references. And I think that's where creative writing comes in. It's like, oh, I can connect your story, but I don't need to like really hardcore reference a lot of stuff. I think Ram V did that really well with his writing, which is why I'm excited to read his run. But everybody else has just been kind of
but
bad
then,
at it.
Then you have the complaints of, oh, you're tying them down. You're not letting them be creative,
But they're already being tied down, though. No writer has 100% creative control at DC or Marvel.
True.
You know what I mean? Because, hey, look at what we're seeing literally with the Harley Quinn show, right? We talk about it all the time. Bad heroes don't eat each other out, apparently. Like, that's the thing that was said. So, you don't have free... And, like, a lot of people are like, well, that's an extreme over-exaggeration of it, right? Like, that's, like, something that doesn't need to be in comics. We've heard that argument before. Fine. That's totally fine. Which I still think is a stupid argument because you see these characters hooking up all the time. It's just not as explicit, which is fine. But, I don't know. Like, it's not hard to be like, Batman can't kill. Like, it's just having that simple stuff, right? Like, these are the things you cannot do. Like, this is a list.
Yeah.
You can maybe put them really close to the line. They can never cross that line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not hard to do. And I would say when people are like, oh, you're, holding them down or whatever, then don't do a main title. You go do an Elseworld story. If you want to do whatever the fuck you want to do, we have this Elseworld brand. You go make your own story over there. It's on Earth 5 billion quadrillion. You know what I mean? And that's where it is. If it's fucking sucks, we could be like, yeah, that's the Earth that sucks. And that's where all the bad stories are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you wanted to work in the dark multiverse, like, oh, I got a dark multiverse story that I want to write. Okay, cool. You're in the dark multiverse over here. You're not on the main Batman title. The only people that are willing to play ball work on the main Batman title. And this is also one of those things too where I wish the comic industry wasn't scared to take breaks. You know what I mean? Been like, hey, or be a little bit more organized, right? So it's like, we want to drop, let's say, 50 Batman issues. It's going to either be from the same writer, two writers, or whatever, but they're going to collaborate and be like, yo, I'm doing this. This is how mine ends. This is how yours starts, whatever. You do all of that. You have an editor being like, I just read so-and-so's, and you can't do that because an issue, whatever, he did it. Granted, that would take a little bit more work, but what the fuck are editors doing right now? Because it doesn't seem like a
Nothing.
good job. It doesn't seem like it. I'm sorry, editors, if you're listening to this, but a lot of y'all comics are all over the fucking place. And if you don't want to play by those rules, then don't play the fucking game, right? Again, some of the best comic stories we've read are Elseworlds. A lot of people are saying King's Run is not continuity. I call bullshit, but that is some of the best Batman run, or the best Batman we're reading right now, unfortunately. Yeah. So there's not a problem with reading a bunch of Elseworld stories. But yeah, I don't know. That's another thing we can talk about is we a lot of people mention like, oh, I saw somebody say.
Well, real quick, I was scrolling through these comments. And I just saw this dude say, let me get the exact quote. It says,
yeah,
okay, bro, next time just think, will anybody actually care about my opinion? Because literally nobody cares, bro. Comics are better than those dumb animes, bro.
Yeah. And I think I quoted like, okay, bro. I think that's just what I wrote back to him. And it was funny. Somebody else responded to him. They're like, dude, shut the fuck up. You play Roblox or something like that. And I was like, damn. I was like, Jesus. But we've talked about like cutting down the amount of books, right? Like there's just too much books at the comic store, in my opinion. Somebody put this, it's become a chore to collect comics when they're coming out chapter by chapter. Yes. I always wait till they release by volumes. That is exactly the model we've talked about. And that's how manga works.
That is how manga works, but they do come out chapter by chapter. They come out every single Sunday. It's $1.99 a month. Mm-hmm. $1.99 a month to subscribe to their app. And you can read every single book digitally. That's what I do for manga. It's amazing. I think there's some great stories out there. Go subscribe. It's great. But right behind me, I collect manga as well. I wait until they show up because that's one thing that I think is a master plan that Shonen Jump and Viz Media do. You can log on, make your account, subscribe to Shonen Jump, and then they have a tab for calendar. And they literally have a calendar showing what comes out volume-wise each and every day of each and every month. And you click on it, and then it gives you a link for Barnes & Noble, for Amazon, for Books A Million, for Kindle, for Comixology.
Yeah.
For everything. Why isn't DC doing this? Like, it would drive people to their website to subscribe. Like, you lower that pricing for DC Universe Infinite online, making these books like available like every single week for people. That would be, you would probably make more money then than you are now with that. Yeah. With the subscriptions.
It's so much easier to pay $1.99 than it is $8.99. You know what I mean? And it's because you don't even like, unless you are on a very, very strict budget, you don't even see $1.99. Like that's just something that pops up in your thing. Like this hasn't happened to me, thankfully, but like $1.99 has never made me like overdraft. You know what I mean? Like I've never been that down in the deeps. And I understand some people have, like, you know, people have definitely been there. But again, it is something like right now, I completely forget how much Spotify costs because I've been paying for it for so long. Like every time I just get a notification, I'm like, oh, it's like, what the hell did I just buy? It's like Spotify. I'm like, oh, okay, fuck it. You know, and that's probably like $12. I don't even know what that is. You know what I mean? But when it's something that's $1.99, like I do all of those, like the extended storage bullshit, like on my iPhone or whatever. Those are all pretty cheap. Yeah. You just forget about them. And so Dude, right now I think it's funny because I'm like listing all these things that I probably should cancel, but I probably still pay for Crunchyroll. Like, and how
Oh
much is
man.
that? And I haven't
Well,
even watched it.
I don't even think they like upgraded their pricing after they got Funimation. So I think it's still the same price, which is
Yeah, I don't
amazing.
know. I'm
But like,
pretty sure I'm still getting hit for that. I don't know because I don't know if that goes through my. I don't know how I pay for that, but I think I'm subscribed still. But that's the thing, right? Like I'm not even remembering
Juice
these
is like,
other
how much
ones.
money am I actually
I'm
wasting every
probably
single month?
wasting a lot of fucking money. Like genuinely, I'm probably subscribed to shit I don't even remember. But this is the exact thing, right? Like I don't want to say part of the problem, but I'm the audience DC would get. That
Yeah.
audience that forgets. You know what I mean? That's me. That's how all these streaming softwares work. They don't want you to remember you have a bill. They want you to forget, so they just keep making money every month.
But here's a way of doing, like, again, I understand that there's individuals out there that can be very low on funds. And I
Yes.
completely understand that. Like, thinking about collecting comics is a dream. I understand that. But
Luxury, right? That's probably a
luxury,
better
yeah.
word. Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that 199 is more plausible. You are
Yeah.
able to say, okay, like for me as a kid, I live like when I used to live with my grandparents, like literally right down the road is a dollar store. And
Mm-hmm.
I would always $1.07 almost daily for hot Cheetos and a Coke.
Yeah. Fucking
Like
taxes. Yeah. It's not a dollar. Yeah.
but like that's what I would do. I would go and like every day ask my grandparents, "Hey, can I have $1.07?" And they're like, "Okay, here."
Yeah.
But like just thinking that I could ask for that and then hold on to it and then like ask for it again like maybe the second week and then boom, freaking Shonen Jump is paid or
Yeah.
possibly a DC Universe Infinite. How crazy would that be?
Yeah.
And the idea of having these really large IP characters available for that low of a price every single week,
Mm-hmm.
that would be amazing.
Yeah. And I think on a digital platform, you could easily promote other characters, right? Like
Yes.
today's Blue Beetle Day. Here's some of the best Blue Beetle stories. Or it's Blue Beetle Week. Or, it's not like the way they're probably shielding out like thousands upon hundreds of thousands of dollars for all the Pride stuff this month. You could do that every week for a different character, right? It's
Yeah.
Wonder Woman Week. Or it's, fucking, Seatless Character Week. Like, it's Legends or whatever. Like they could do all of that crap digitally. And the thing too is, I will say, the model of being able to get so many different books for $1.99. If you are super passionate about this, you could turn that $1.99 into like a YouTube channel if you wanted to. You could read all these books and just be like, "Hey guys, I'm currently covering this series right now. If you want to know about it, like this is what it goes into, blah blah blah." You know what I mean? Like it would be such a source of knowledge. Like every time we say something on this podcast, somebody who's paying for that kind of thing could go in there and just be like, "Oh, guys, you're actually wrong in issue, blah, blah, blah," and just have our fucking correct answers and all that bullshit. You know what I mean? Pretty crazy. But let's move on to. Oh, you have another one?
Well, I do have something to
Yeah.
say. So, as of right now, I just clicked on the Viz Media because I do have it bookmarked on my computer. They have a
Mm,
total of 44 titles, and each one of those titles has like at least over 30 chapters.
mm,
So, just think of it this way: 44, and so this group is on each row is 4. So that's 176 titles that they
mm.
have.
Viz Media, explain that to the audience in case they don't know.
So Viz Media is the company that kind of distributes the Shonen Jump digital books.
Mm,
Uh, and they partner with creating the animes and all of that.
yeah.
So if you go to viz.com, make an
Mm,
account, the first 3 chapters of every single title is free. That's just how
yeah.
they do it. So if you were to start a brand new series, as long as you kept up with it every single week, you wouldn't even have to pay for it.
Yeah.
But if you get 3 weeks behind, boom, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah.
Anyway, 176 chapters. Majority of these have over 30 or 176 books with a majority of them having over 30 chapters.
Yeah.
That's a lot of content.
Yeah.
and it's all available to you for only $1.99.
Yeah.
DC has more than 176 titles in
I
their
mean,
data banks.
we were using the hell out of the app during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I was able to read all the Catwoman stuff. Like, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have never read it. I would have never read it. But I was like, oh, why not? And it was fucking fire. And so I think DC, the thing is, comics needs more eyes, right? And they're not doing anything to do that. Like, I think if you were to cut the cost of having to print all the books the way they're printing them each week, because a majority of them just sit in comic shops. Like, maybe they team up with a specific like publisher, and they're like, hey, we're only going to print pre-orders from now on. That's it. If we only get 100 books, that's all you're going to print. And that could be for those fans that want the single issues every single week, and they could figure out, maybe they charge them a little bit more. They're like, hey, this is going to be a specific thing now. These might even be collector's editions, like now, because there's only going to be 100 of them available. But we are going to a pre-order only model, and they just set it up online, set it up in comic shops, whatever. I think that would be good. I think a lot of people are making the argument too of like, well, this would kill comic shops. I don't believe that. I do not believe that comic shops would die if they didn't have the weekly books, because I think what you would need to do is you would need to offset with, all right, if you're going to start killing us, like if you're going to start, not killing is the wrong word, if you're going to start taking away books each week, you need to give us something every week or every so often to promote. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're doing a new hardcover of something, you're doing this so people have something to buy. You know what I mean? And you can also, like, there's so many other things that you could promote in comic stores, right? Like memorabilia, all that kind of stuff. Like, there are things people would get. Now, maybe the comic shop we go to would downsize a little bit, but you used to work there. It was comics their biggest thing?
So on Wednesdays, yes,
Mm-hmm.
but the very large competitor for that comic shop is tabletop gaming cards.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the community for Magic,
And that doesn't come out
for
weekly, right?
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Like, it's just
No.
cards. People go buy cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the thing is comic shops need to adapt more. And I don't know if you've talked to the main guy, our friend over there at the comic shop, but I've mentioned, I was like, bro, y'all need to get more manga in here. Y'all need to buy more anime shit. And he even said, he was like, we're trying. Like, it's so backlogged that we can't even get it in the stores.
I
Like,
have been trying to, like, even so I have a little bit of an obsession with the comic My Dress Up Darling.
mm-hmm.
It's a great anime. Go check it out. I wanted to read the manga. The
Yeah.
first 4 volumes have been backlogged, and you cannot order them for the past 6 months.
Yeah, it's insane.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah. And this is something that America could adopt, but they're too worried about keeping the same generic cycle over and over. Like, but let's dive into some other stuff, because I think there's a lot more than just like, oh, they just need to start printing them like this. Somebody said right here, Western companies are way too conservative and fearful of dropping their IPs for this to ever work. Agree? Disagree? I mean, we know that they're not going to do half of the shit that mangas do, because mangas, let's be real, some of them are like, people that would read them in the West would be like, oh my god, like, why are these characters doing these things? Like, this is very sus.
So what does that mean though? Like, I know the terminology and what it encompasses when it says too conservative.
Yeah.
But when they say too conservative and fearful of dropping their IPs, what, like,
I don't know. I mean, because I don't think that the way I think about it is not the way I think it truly is, because I feel like they're assuming that if, like, say Sony doesn't make a Spider-Man movie every 5 years, right? Like, they lose the IP. I feel like they might be thinking about it that way. I don't think that's the way it works when you fucking own the rights.
Yeah.
Warner Brother and DC own the rights. And all they have to do is they just have to use the character in something, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're like, oh, we're fearful of losing Blue Beetle. Oh, look, Blue Beetle just showed up in this week's Batman book. Bam, that's it. You used it. You're
Yeah.
good for 5 years. You don't need to I don't think it works that way though. So I'm more interested in the conservative part, right? I think this is kind of the idea of, I mean, look at what happened with Bad Dick, right? Like the moment they bought it, that same week, it felt like, I don't know if it was exactly the same week, but it felt like that week AT&T bought WB, everything was solidified. They're like, yay, we own DC. It was like, oh, look, Batman's penis everywhere. And they're like, what is this?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where things go down, right? Because, I mean, I definitely think it's very different, but were we not talking about how everybody was excited for Black Label? Like they were just like,
Yeah.
dude, like a more mature DC, like that's gonna be awesome. And Batman Damned was a hit. Like people were
Yeah.
talking about it. Besides even Bat Dick, like people were like talking about it. They're like, this is gonna be awesome. And then they fucking whiffed it. They were like, oh no, people are talking about Batman's penis. We can't have that. And it's like, that's probably the most publicity you guys have gotten in a really long time. You know what I mean? Because like, why wouldn't you want to be like? Let's go to the typical saying: all publicity is good publicity, right? Because people are talking about it. We know people. I am these people that when something controversial happens, I'm like, I kind of want to see that. Like, I kind of want to read that.
Yes.
I love that shit.
Do you know what the perfect example for that is?
So,
Joker.
yeah. Yeah,
made $1 billion. Made $1 billion because of a huge controversy. And you can't we cannot like honestly say, oh, it didn't make $1 billion because of that controversy.
Yeah,
it did something to it.
CNN, Fox News, all of them were making stories about that shit. And I'm just like, yeah, that was free press that DC did not need to pay for. I'm trying to think of other times that I'm like, I've thought about this. Oh, we all wanted that Joker Batgirl cover. Everybody wanted that cover.
Oh yeah,
you know,
Batgirl 45.
No, it's trauma and shit. That's real shit. That's real trauma. People have to deal with.
And then I don't remember if it was fan made or not, or was it the one where Batgirl had Joker? Like somebody did like
somebody
a twist
reversed it. Yeah. I would have bought that one too.
Yeah.
That would have been cool. I think that should still come out, by the way. But then somebody reversed it. They're like, well, and then of course, when that happens, everybody starts doing parodies of it, right? Like somebody did Doomsday with Superman. They're like, well, Superman died too against Doomsday. Can you not do a cover like this? You know what I mean? And again, I think that gets people talking because people that would know fucking nothing about comics are like, what's going on? Because when it hits that Twitter For You page or that Twitter front page of what's happening, everybody talked about the, oh, superheroes don't each other out shit. That was everywhere. And then, but again, being conservative. And like, let's just jump away from comics. One thing that happened that made me want to play a game was, did you ever hear about the game Hatred? Like, about it? Hatred was a game, because I own this game now. It's pretty cheap on Steam. It was a game where you played a shooter that went around just killing people. Like, that was your goal, was to kill people. Like every other game out there. But this guy was not a good guy killing people. You were just supposed to cause chaos. You were supposed to be like a mass shooter and kind of shit like that. And people were just like, oh, no, you can't do that. That is just, oh my God. Like that type of game is just so bad. I was like, I want to play that
like
game.
7 years old.
Yeah, it's old. I was like, I want to play that game because one, I heard about it because of the controversy. But two, I was like, that creator should have the freedom to make a game like that. And
they
I
took
don't
it off the store because of it.
Exactly. It's on there now. I bought it on Steam.
They said that they put it back.
Yeah. And my thing is, you do not have to like what people create, but I like the idea that people have that thing to create. I guarantee you, if the like mainstream media actually dove into like lewd games, they would have so many fucking problems. They'd be like, oh my God, we can't do all this kind of shit. And I'd be like, why not? A majority of these things are fantasy based. It's like what people would be like, oh, I'm doing this in the privacy of my own home. Like, why the fuck does it matter? Like you could say that it's just because it's not in a book like 50 Shades of Grey, right? Like that's just like, it's like the same shit, but I'm watching a visual like, oh, it's a problem. It's a game. It's gonna corrupt the
Well,
kids.
I
Uh,
remember the controversy over what was that stupid game called? I'm pretty sure it was like it was basically Girls Gone Wild, but a video game. I think it was called the Guy Game.
oh, Galgun. Was it Galgun, the anime one?
No. So,
I don't remember this game, and I need to play it now.
so it was basically like it was like actual video clips of women,
Oh,
and
uh
they were
huh.
like wet shirt, white shirt
Yeah.
contest, and like all sorts of stuff. And you would like there was puzzles to it. They made it into a video game, but like
Mm-hmm.
after you beat like so many levels, then there was legit like a strip tease at the very end
That's awesome.
for whatever girl you chose at the
Yeah.
beginning.
As long as the
And
women are paid for it, it's all good.
like I remember I remember my older brother and my stepbrother at the time playing this game, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, how is this a video game? And they're just
Yeah.
like, I don't know, don't tell dad. I was like, okay.
That industry is huge. I played a game that is like, I don't want to say it's like Clash of Clans, but it's one of those things where you click shit to get money and you're building like a sex empire. And if you do enough, they give you actual videos of like porn stars. And like they're part of the game. Like they own the game, apparently. And I'm like, that is genius. That is better than OnlyFans right there. Like that is smart. It's an interactive game where you do shit like that. But yeah, like I just think that we got so off topic, but when it comes to the conservative stuff, right? Like Marvel, DC don't let people really explore these IPs, right? Like they're behind strict tape. Now again, if you were gonna do a main title, it makes sense not to do that. But if you're trying to do something that's like, hey, yeah, this is creative freedom, they can do whatever they fuck they want, it's interesting. Um, and it's at some points like that, I think that's where you can kind of the people that kind of complain about like, oh, they have an agenda, they have this and that. Like I can somewhat see their point. I think they take it way overboard. Like, oh, I get it, the escapism and like I don't want to see politics in my books. I'm like, bro, like it's how they were fucking made, Um, but I think that if somebody is pushing like let's say like left leaning ideas, right leaning ideas should also be able to be pushed, but you got to make it in a way that is believable. You know what I mean? Like if you want to push some right leaning shit, but it's like the hero is against that makes sense. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
you're trying to build up a villain. But if you're trying to make a superhero with these hardcore right leaning like white power, it's like whoa, yeah, maybe we're not gonna do that for our IP. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I
But
think
like
the
even when I'm trying to think of all the books that I'm currently reading in manga
mhm.
currently. And they definitely have controversial things in there,
Oh for sure,
but
family stuff is huge in manga, which is
yes,
weird.
yes. But I wouldn't say that like it is as controversial as what politics are in American comics, you know? It's and that's a weird
Yes,
way of
I would agree.
phrasing it. It's a
Yeah,
weird way of phrasing it because of course comics came from politics.
yeah.
That's how they were made or at least very very much promoted. Uh
Hmm.
but the
They were
way we
propaganda.
yes,
Yeah.
the way we look at politics and when we see politics in other mediums we're like rah! As far as like when politics happen in manga and people are
Hmm.
like, oh okay, it is used as this type of storytelling, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And I will say I think manga like they pick their lane and they stay in it. You know
Yes.
what I mean? And I think it's I think the reason why it works in manga is because they keep the same writer for so long, right? And the one thing that Japan has is built more on respect than America. You know what I mean? Like I feel like Americans just don't have a lot of respect anymore. Like everybody's like, my shit matters and your shit doesn't matter, so I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like it's all like, don't fucking tread on my rights and shit. Where Japan is very respectful. So if a creator dies in Japan, they're like, well, this book's done. I'm sorry. They died.
I will
Berserk,
say
I know. If you're gonna talk
there's
about Berserk.
that
Yeah.
that is the exception to the rule
Yeah.
currently.
Yeah.
um but that is very very true, and
Hmm.
I think it's something that I very much enjoy because the story stays the same. It keeps the same heart in that story. It keeps the same focus in that
Yeah.
story because it's all by one individual. And the one thing that I absolutely love is yes, they do work very, very hard. They have teams upon teams working on every single book. But like
Mhm.
once the creator is like, hey, I am not doing well because I've been working so hard,
Yeah.
Shonen Jump, what's the other publishers for manga, like
Mhm.
whoever is that creator that is saying that, they're like, okay, let's take a break. Don't
Yeah.
like whenever you are ready to come back, come back.
Yeah.
Because Hunter x Hunter, like if nobody has heard the news, Hunter x Hunter is finally coming back into actual print. The creator has been very, very ill, and so much so that he has formally said, "Hey, I have given all of my story plans to my wife in case I die."
Yeah.
Um, but he has finally started to come back, and that has been away for like almost 10 years. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. I heard about that. And yeah, I think it's, it's a different thing. I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, but I think if you don't want to get rid of the current model, what they need to do is they need to bring in a new series or a new writer that is going to stick around for a long time. I would go with one of the better writers, or maybe you go with a writer that has been existing. Like, let's just say DC is going to go to Tom King or they're going to go to Scott Snyder, right? And they're going to be like, hey, you two guys recently have had one of the better Batman runs in recent history, right? What we're going to do is we are going to send your books to an animation studio, and an animation studio is going to start making a show out of your stuff. And we're going to make a show. And what's going to happen is we're going to release, let's say, 10 episodes. If they do well, then we're going to be like, oh, we'll order a season 2, and it's going to be your second arc or your third arc, right? Like they just do a whole series off of the arcs. And what happens is once they finally catch up, let's just say maybe the book sells, people are like, oh, I kind of want to hear, I want to see what's going next in this manga. Because that's what happens in manga. Like
yes,
people watch the anime and they're like I went and bought Rent a Girlfriend after I saw the first season of Rent a Girlfriend. I was like, what? It's not coming out for 2 or 3 more years? Like, what the fuck? And so you want to know what's happening next. And if you already have a catalog of like, oh, dude, we got like 50 books you can read if you want to get really ahead. That's how Dragon Ball Super is right now, right? Isn't
yes,
it
yes.
so far ahead?
I
Yeah.
so the Tournament of Power is like I think somewhere around like chapter 40, chapter 45. I
Mm-hmm.
this week I read chapter 85.
Yeah. It's
It is
insane.
so far
Double.
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I think could be done with comics, right? Like, but it's unfortunate because comics focus on this idea of like, oh, we're going to do something new and fresh. And oh, yeah, you know that awesome comic book Hush that everybody loves? We're going to change it up so it's a little bit different and fresh. I'm like, you don't got to fucking do that. Like, it makes no sense. Granted, I'm also going to say I think a lot of the animation styles in America are kind of trash. You know? I don't think we have the best animation, in my opinion. Stuff like that's unique, like BTAS and all that shit is awesome. But that was also it's awesome because it was 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or 20 years ago, whatever the fuck it was. And
Jeez.
I think we could work on better animation. We go too much for like we care about kids. You know what I mean? And in
Well,
Japan, it's like we care about cool shit. You know what I
the
mean?
so one thing that my uncle has very much been a prominent voice for
Mm-hmm.
is my uncle does not see the difference in storytelling when it comes to comics, animation, and live action because he watched.
Huh?
No, so this is how I'm going to explain it.
Uh-huh.
He watched Zack Snyder's Justice League, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's cool, but I've already seen it before. You remember that animated Justice League movie called Justice League War?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "It's the same thing." I was like, "Yeah, but it's live action. They adapted that story from the comic to the
Yeah.
animation to the live action." And he's like, "Yeah, and they're telling the exact same story." I was like, "Yeah, not really. They changed the character." He's like, "Yeah, but it's the exact same story." And there's a lot of
Hmm.
people like that. And I can appreciate that because they put value in animation, right? They put value
Okay,
of
that makes
like
sense.
they put value in, oh, why would you adapt it when it's already there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if people were to adapt My Neighbor Totoro, people
Mm-hmm.
would be like fucking like, are you kidding me? Like the animated movie is amazing. You don't need to touch it. You know, it's almost like something like
Yeah.
Back in the Future. You just don't touch it.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the animation of America, and like you were saying, I do think that the problem is because even like I think during the Oscars, they
Mhm.
had like younger actors come out to like
Yeah.
tell the winner, and they're like, animation is a great way for kids to be a part of the
Yeah.
Oscars. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
adults appreciate that too. I watched Lightyear the other day. It
Mhm.
was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
You know, like
Well,
I
the
can
Oscars
enjoy it.
don't. I think they like to keep it kids because if they don't keep it kids, then they're gonna be like, "Fuck, we actually gotta start incorporating Japanese movies because they're fucking fire, but they're not for kids." So they're like, "Yeah, we don't have to include them." You know what I mean? I feel like that because, dude, some anime movies will fucking make you cry because they're so good,
I
and like
still
the
haven't seen
animation's
Belle.
gorgeous, the story's good. Bell's good, but that is a Japanese telling of Beauty and the Beast, like
Yes.
100%,
Yeah.
modern version. So which I think is really good, but yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like we are definitely like jumping a lot off of it. Just to kind of end on one of these things because we've kind of said it. This person says, I think Western comics should be more their own, have like their own Shonen Jump. Mostly monthly comic release where the top 10 stay and get published, but the bottom get canceled. So
Yeah. So
top 10
so
stories would stay.
so the really crazy thing about Shonen Jump is you can start a series, and if your series does not pop off in the first 18 chapters, you're done. You're
Hmm.
like it's canceled. It's never coming back.
Yeah,
Like anywhere between the first 12 to 18 chapters, that's 12 weeks. You have 12 weeks to convince the entire Shonen Jump community that
yeah,
you are worth it. And if not, you're out of there.
yeah. I think that would be a good thing for comic books, to be
Yeah.
honest. Because we've talked about it on this podcast a million times. I feel like a lot of writers phone it in. You know what I mean? We felt that way with Tynan. There was rumors that he was just working kind of week to week. It felt like that at times when writing or when reading some of his stuff. And yeah, I think there's a lot of people that don't care. They're just like, I'm getting paid. Like my contract just says I got to put out X amount of books. It doesn't say I got to sell X amount of,
Copies.
issues,
Yeah.
you know? And, a lot of people talk about this idea of we need to pay artists more, we need to pay writers more. Okay, I'm on board with that, but maybe they have to work a little harder. You know what I mean? Maybe it's
Yeah.
more competition. And that was a big thing in the comment section of this video was a lot of people were like, yeah, well, mangakas and everything like that get fucking drug, they get thrown into the ground. Like they do not give a shit about them. I'm like, that's true. But that's also Japanese culture though. That's not just anime and it's not just manga. Like anybody in Japan, like if you take days off or if you take vacations and stuff, they like frown upon that shit. Like there's like why are you taking time for yourself? Like what the hell? Like you should care about the business and the business only. And I'm like, that sounds shitty. You know what I mean? Like that sounds like a shitty way to work, but that's the part of that culture, right? Like that would need to be a cultural like reset if you want to change that. And the thing over there is everybody wants to do these dream jobs, right? So if somebody's like, I want $10,000 a month or whatever. Somebody's like, I'll do it for 9, and then somebody's
Yeah.
like, I'll do it for 8, and they're just like, well, why wouldn't we go with the $8,000 guy? He draws just as good as you do,
Yeah.
and like it's just like, oh fuck. But in America, everybody's like, no, I'm gonna, they claim it, and they take 2 years to draw 6 books or whatever it was. And he's like, somebody else could do 3 issues and ruin this run that we've been waiting forever for. But it
One
is what
more
it is.
week. One more week.
Yeah, one more week. I mean, I've got to read it though already, but I'm still like, I'd like to own the physical stuff and then make a lot of money so I can go pay Clayman to redraw 3 issues. But there's a lot of divide there, right? And I think this is going to be a controversial topic that people might talk about in the Discord. Feel free to let us know your opinions. And we know for a fact there are some of you in the Discord that don't like this conversation or don't want this conversation. You want to keep it how it is. But I think in the end goal is I want comics to thrive and be better. I want better shit. And I feel like it's being half-assed right now. Like Marvel, I feel like Marvel doesn't even give a shit about their comic industry. They're just like, we got the movies. Like, we got the movies, we got Disney Plus, that's all we need. And I'm like, but you could do so much more. Like, they're doing it with Star Wars. They're doing the anime stuff with Star Wars. Do that with your shows. I'm waiting
Yeah.
for X-Men to come back and see how they treat X-Men. I think that might be the first thing. Like, if X-Men pops off and everybody's like, oh my God, they might be like, okay, people like cartoons. Let's do this more. You know? I feel like DC's known that, but they haven't went balls to the wall with it. But now that Zaslav's here, maybe he's like, no, we're doing that animation studio. We're going to fucking knock out bangers. We got DC movies. These are going to be bangers. And then all our other movies are going to be bangers. And then hopefully, I don't think he's in control of the comic book shit, but hopefully I don't know. Again, I don't know how it would work. I don't think anybody would buy DC comics if you're not getting the rights to DC movies. I just don't see that happening. So I think WB just keeps the whole thing. That would be a stupid deal. Oh yeah, we get the rights to the one part of the business that's not doing the best. Like, the fuck? But it would be interesting if somebody did work out a deal and they're like, no, we're gonna revamp this, but we get all the earnings from it. And I would be interested to see if somebody at DC or Marvel was just like, hey, we're gonna bring a team of people from Japan. We're gonna let them take over some characters, and they're just gonna make their own series, and they're in control of it. They can do whatever the fuck they want. You know what I mean? But I'm curious if that could even work because again, it seems like Japan could do whatever they want in their books. Because I've read some fucked up shit in mangas,
Oh
so
yeah. Go
that
read
would
Goblin
never pass
Slayer.
in America. Yeah, yeah. So I just don't think any of that would kind of pass in America, and maybe that's where people say it's too conservative, or we wouldn't see that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. So I feel like we've been on this topic long enough. That is kind of when we didn't have anything else to talk about today, but we do got questions, and then we're gonna dive into the one thing I just want to talk about already because it annoyed the fuck out of me this week.
All
But
right, so
yeah, what questions do we got?
let's go to YouTube. Our first question comes from Ivan. Yo, my question for today is, do you guys have a favorite quote? It can be from anybody or anything. One of my favorites is, to not try is the ultimate failure. Is the ultimate fail, J. Cole.
Hmm.
I will be completely honest, one of my favorite quotes that I use almost weekly, ever since I heard it from my 5th grade Texas history teacher, was Mr. Bailey. And he said, life isn't fair. Never has, never will be. And that just reminds me of one of my other favorite quotes from the Eric Matthews. Life's tough. Get a helmet.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, plays with squirrels. I guarantee you I have a bunch of quotes I like. But one quote that I say in everyday life, not every day, I guess, but I say it often that I know, is you got to keep on keeping on. And I think that came from Joe Dirt, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's also life's what is it? Life's a garden, dig it, some shit like that.
yeah.
But I want to say keep on keeping on is from Joe Dirt, if I'm not mistaken. But that is just something I say all the time because it's like I'll sit here and rant for fucking an hour like we currently just have and been like, but you know what? That's life. You just got to keep on keeping on, And that's what I fucking do.
As soon as you hear once you said Joe Dirt, I just remember the last part of that original trailer. I could see down your shirt.
Yeah. Well, my favorite part of Joe Dirt, and this is just pervy juice, is I always remember when he's tied to the septic tank and he's like, "You there?" and he has the hammer and he's like, "Just jump in them buoys." And then you just get like a shot of side boob and Joe Dirt being like, "Damn." And then the poop pops off and like gets all covered on him, which I think is fucking funny. Like, I just remember seeing that shit. That was so funny. But I love Joe Dirt. It's such a great movie.
Raphael has the next question, and I will go ahead and say, Raphael, I am Hispanic. Juice is Hispanic. I don't know how well Juice speaks Spanish. I am horrible at it. My family never properly taught me. They used it as a way to be like, hey, we're going to tell secrets in front of our children.
Yeah.
And nobody can know all the drama. It's only us. But he does say, is there any writer, philosopher, politician in real life who has said something that reminds you of Batman? For me, an Argentinian poet named Almanfuerte in the
Replicants,
20th
maybe?
in the 20th century wrote a poem called uh I have no idea how to pronounce this. Piu. Uh
I don't have
uh
it pulled up, so I can't see it.
Avanti. There is a very important part that means a lot to me. I will put it in Spanish first because I feel that it loses a bit with the translation. And I think there are words that don't have a proper translation. Now, I will not be saying this in Spanish. If you guys go to Batman News Weekly on YouTube, you can see the original poem, but it does say this: don't embrace defeat, even defeated. Don't feel yourself a slave, even enslaved. Trembling in terror, think you fearless and charged with fury, even wounded, even hurt. Um, but in the sense of like, is there anybody that reminds me of who Batman is? That's a little bit of a hard one, to be
Yeah.
completely honest. Um, I have not watched it yet, but I thought it was very inspiring and just a very cool project. Um, there's this documentary, I think it's like called Becoming Batman, and it's
Hmm.
about like the kid, like a little kid's make a wish. Uh,
Oh yeah. Where the whole town gets like dressed up and shit.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I like, and when it comes to something like that's Batman.
Hmm.
And I thought that was a really cool thing for like an entire town to do.
Yeah.
But that's just me. What about you?
I don't think I have a person, to be honest. Like when I read that originally, I was like, "Oh, this fucking sucks. I don't have an answer for Raphael here." You know, um, I don't think I have anything like that. I mean, maybe there's like moments, where I see
Hmm.
people persevere. Like when some, I think just like I feel like Batman is just the ultimate underdog story, right? And people be like, "What the fuck do you mean? It's a billionaire and all this shit." And I mean that in the way of like he's able to compete up there with gods. You know what I mean? Like that literal, like Superman can do whatever the fuck he wants, but everybody's like, "All right, we got to save the world." Batman, what do we do? Nobody goes to Superman first. Everybody's like, oh fuck, It's like, all right, he's gonna do all the heavy lifting, but Batman's the brains. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I always let people know when everybody's like, oh, well, somebody's like, he's so big and strong, and I'm like, it's not always the strongest that wins. Like the smartest person wins, right? Um, and so like, I don't know. I kind of just go off of stuff like that. I like the idea that an intelligent person can be the strongest person in the room. You know what I mean? And that's just kind of what I go off of. So I don't think I have a person in particular, but I like the idea that as like just the core of Batman, anybody that puts their all into something and finds a way to win or finds a way to succeed is admirable. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I think maybe that's why I enjoy YouTube so much because it's a bunch of people kind of doing what they want and finding a way to make money off of it and just said fuck you to everybody else. And it
yeah,
kind of makes everybody go to them now. Like I just watched a podcast with Mr. Beast and like granted, I don't think Mr. Beast is the best role model anymore for anybody on YouTube because he's just on another level that you cannot reach. Although he's like, oh yeah, I could help you, and I'm like, yeah, your business model is so fucking different than everybody else.
yeah,
If Mr. Beast was somehow listening to a fucking Batman News Weekly podcast, try to help me on my channel and see if you can get lewd shit to be successful. I want to see you do that. He'd probably be like, it can't be done on YouTube. I'm like, well, that's what we're trying to fucking make it happen. So, you know.
yeah,
So I think it all just matters. But if I'm somehow able to make my channel work eventually, I'm just gonna be like, fuck, that's pretty fucking Batman. I made a way to make it work with all of the bullshit I've been through. It's been 10 years and I haven't fucking given up. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and maybe that's what keeps me going. That's why I like Batman so much. I don't really know, but I think anybody that just doesn't give up, I think is very Batman in my eyes. So,
yeah.
but also tries because Batman tries. Some people are like, "Oh, I haven't given up," but they don't fucking do anything. I'm like, that's pretty much giving up, my guy. Just because you're interested, like, oh yeah, I wrote one paragraph for my book this year. The fuck,
Man, just calling me out right here
Hey,
on the
I'm
podcast.
telling you, man. I'll call it. It goes to anybody. I didn't really reference that to Clay, but it is to anybody because I do know a lot of people that want to do shit, but they don't do shit. I'm like, come on, man. Like, I have a lot of things I want to do, but I do pick certain things that are more present now. The moment I get an editor, man, I'm gonna be writing so much more because I don't have to waste time editing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So that's kind of that. But or is that all the questions we had?
We have questions on Discord as well. So, uh, let's see here. Very first question. Let me read over this real
A
quick.
ponderer.
Yes. So he says, I don't know if you've already answered this, but you guys, especially Juice, has expressed the fatigue of superhero movies, and I see why. So my question is, how would you make superhero movies unique and fresh? We've kind of talked about this in Joker 2,
Yeah.
and the idea of Black Label.
Hmm.
You take a genre that is not superhero related and then put a superhero inside of that genre. So
Yeah.
think of Tombstone, 310 to Yuma. Think of your classic spaghetti western, and then put Jonah Hex into it.
Yeah.
That is how you make it fresh. You look at things like Arrival and Space Odyssey and Interstellar. You put Green Lantern into that.
Yeah.
That is something fresh. That's interesting. So
Yeah. We haven't had
that's
an
how I see it.
artsy. There hasn't been an artsy superhero movie, in my opinion. Maybe that might have been some moments during WandaVision. I didn't watch the series, but it looked like it had some interesting moments in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just have to change it up and involve superheroes. But that does not mean realistic, because that is also something he mentioned here. Is like we need to find a new term for grounded. Like we can't use grounded anymore because fuck that word. Grounded means realistic. Realistic means grounded. Okay, that's the same shit. We need to find something different because every time somebody says it's funny. The Ponderer is not the first one to do this. I talked about this on the podcast that I made somebody leave when we were talking about this conversation. But the idea that like every time somebody says grounded, they're like, I want a grounded film, but I don't mean realistic. And I'm like, well, that's what it means. So we need a different word. I want a blank something. That's the we need something different because grounded doesn't work anymore. Grounded means realistic. So like,
I legit put synonyms for grounded on freaking Google.
yeah,
None of these would work.
yeah,
Prevent from flying. Keep on the ground. Um, becoming stranded. Run ashore.
yeah.
Um,
That's what
it's
I
like,
got to that's my question to anybody listening to this podcast right now. What is and it again, don't just take a what do you say synonym or whatever. Don't give me another word for grounded. We need another cuz it's not realistic, right? So we need something else. Like if you have to say heartfelt, that makes more sense cuz you can have a heartfelt story that's not realistic or
yeah.
grounded. You know what I mean? Like something along those lines. If you're trying to say I'm trying the best way to put it. Oh, man, I don't know. Like, character driven is more interesting, right? Because character driven doesn't need to be realistic, right? And I don't know
Well,
what they're.
you know what's a good word for it?
Hmm.
Familiar. Because realistic, grounded, it's supposed to be something that is in our world that is
Yeah,
familiar.
yeah. I feel like that would get kind of confusing though, because it depends on how people take it. Because like, if people have only seen realistic Batman, they're like, "Well, this is familiar." You know what I mean?
Ah, true.
Yeah.
True,
So,
true, true.
um, I would want to use what because what does he use? He was like me. I would make a grounded story, but when I say grounded, I'm not talking about realistic. I know Juice hates that word. I'm talking about what making it down to earth type of story. I feel like that would be. Would you say Spider-Man 2 was character driven?
Yes, I think Spider-Man 2 was very much about Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker and where he
Mm-hmm.
was going to be because he had to make the choice. It was
Yeah,
him making a choice between staying Peter Parker, getting the girl, living his life, or being the hero, not getting the girl, not living a quote unquote normal life. I think
yeah.
it was very character driven. Uh,
My only thing is when because I think the way we're speaking about it, the way we're getting annoyed with realistic is I think we need to incorporate it. How does it mean comic book with whatever? Because is it like adaptive, an adaptive character driven story. Because I feel like if you just say character driven, some people might be like, well, freaking the Batman's character driven. And I'm just like, man, I don't give a fuck about that movie. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. We need to come up with a new word. That's all I'm saying. So if anybody listening to this podcast, if you made it through everything else and you're on this particular moment, if you have a better word that we can use instead of grounded to talk about some different type of movie that is not realistic, let us know. We will totally shout you out on the next podcast if your word just makes total sense. But yeah, there's got to be something different because grounded means realistic, and I fucking hate that word already. So because it got used so much during the Batman. Like
Yeah.
during the Batman promotion, articles, everything. And then, oh, we want to grounded this, we want to grounded that. I'm like, I'm fucking over that word. It means realistic. We need a new word.
Yeah.
All right, what else we got?
Next question is from Bats. I don't know if you guys watched it, but thoughts on season finale of Young Justice season 4. This is a me question because Juice has
I did
not
watch
watched
that.
it. I will go ahead and say this.
I don't care about spoilers, by the way.
You shouldn't be saying season finale. This definitely, I feel like, is the series finale. If you go on to HBO Max now, and I'm pretty sure a promo art for the last episode came out, promoted by HBO Max, said series finale. There has not been anything on an update on if there is going to be a season 5. They did tease something for a season 5.
Mhm.
I don't think it's happening. I think it could have been better. It was good.
Was it
but
better than Titans?
Oh yeah, it was better than Titans.
All right.
But the big problem that like I see with the creator of the show, Greg Weisman, is he's like, "Oh yeah, I have a 9-season plan." And I'm like, "You can't say that." Like,
Yeah,
cuz
you're
you're
never gonna
not
get
going to
it.
be promised 9 seasons.
Yeah.
Like, and I genuinely think all of this stuff that is going on with WB Discovery and all of that, Zaslav wants to make a pure animation studio for
Mhm.
WB, and I think this kind of got shoved to the wayside when those plans are currently being made. They're just like,
Yeah.
you know, have fun doing what you're doing, but y'all aren't very important until we solidify what this studio is going to be. So,
I think with some of those animations, like Titan or Young Justice, is they need to start doing streaming to TV models. Like, I think TV models need to start like syndicating, or I guess you would do that if you have enough episodes. That's what technically syndicating is. But you know how they essentially rent or buy the rights to show them on a channel. I think
yeah.
they need to start doing that for like Young Justice and some of these other shows. Being like, oh, it's gonna premiere the whole series. Like, you know how we wait for TV and it shows up on Netflix? They need the
Yeah.
reverse. So like it shows up on HBO Max. Once it's done, it goes to Cartoon Network. You know what I mean? I think they need to start doing that because one, that makes them more money, and two, that gets it into the eyes of people that cannot afford HBO Max monthly,
Yeah.
and they get to see this show on a weekly basis or whatever, and maybe build a bigger audience. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people have kind of forgot. Everybody just thinks that everybody can afford like streaming
Stuff.
services,
Yeah.
whereas some people still run off TV, because they live in a, you know,
And then
two
some people
family.
forget what they subscribe to.
It's true. I know there is an app out there that will tell you everything you have, like everything you're paying for, but I'm like, man, that's giving a lot of information to that app. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've thought about that, but it's for that reason where I've like,
Yeah.
I want to find out everything that I'm like attached to, but like at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to give one app all of that power.
Yeah. The one thing I've always wanted to do if I had excess cash is you can pay people to find all your shit on the internet and scrub it. I would like to just pay for it to see what I have on the internet.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, because one time, and it's not like anything like crazy, it's just the shit I don't even remember signing up for. Somebody one time was like, hey, are you still on like some weird name of it was like one of those websites where you could sign up and ask questions to creators anonymously. And I signed up to ask like some cosplay or something or some bullshit. And they were like, are
Nice.
you still on this website? And I'm like, the fuck is that? And I feel like I'm like, did somebody steal my shit? And like I went and looked up the website and I looked it up and I had an account and I was like, what the hell? I was like, when did I sign up for this? And then I was just trying to remember. And I think I was following a person on the account. And I was like, oh, that makes sense.
I've
Because yeah, I
thought
would
about
love to see what I've signed up for.
I've thought about trying to go back to see if I can log into my old MySpace account, just to be like, is it
They're
still
all
there?
deleted though.
Really?
Unless you have the newer version, unless you made an account with the newer one, they're all gone.
Oh, that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
the one thing that I saw on TikTok apparently, like last week, Internet Explorer literally does not exist anymore. Apparently.
Well, yeah, but it probably won't exist for like 2 or 3 more years with the way they update. So, they probably still got some time. So, it's not gone yet, guys. But yeah, I heard about that.
Uh,
Yeah, that's the
so
internet life.
next question is, uh, Drew, your song. I
Yeah,
honestly do not remember it, and I am not gonna scroll. So I do apologize for missing your performance.
yeah.
But
I
Juice
gave it 1 out of
says
5 for
gave him a 1 out of
unoriginality.
1 out of 5. Next question is from Young. Do you think they should bomb the Flash movie and start from scratch?
No, that'd be such a waste of money. Would you? If just imagine if you spent $200 million on something, and although the star is a fucking shithead, what would you do? Would you try to recoup any of your money? Again, because my thing is, yes, it sucks that Ezra Miller blows. If I had extra money, I would pay to CGI him out or do something. Like
Yeah,
I would try to do that. But if that's not the case, then you to save PR, you got to make some kind of donation, right? Because that's the way it works. Like, hey, we're still releasing this movie because we don't think it's fair that all of the people that worked on this film don't get to have their stuff viewed because
yeah.
of unfortunately you do the whole thing of we don't condone Ezra, blah blah blah.
Which
The
they
movie's
haven't done
still
yet.
gonna come out. Yeah, they haven't done that. That's bad PR. Hire me. But you gotta do all of that kind of shit. And you're like, we're gonna make this donation, or part of the proceeds of the movie are gonna go to blah blah blah, and then you release the film and you let everybody else shine, because
Yeah.
isn't that like that one chick who's playing Iris's like big movie debut? Like it was supposed to be years ago. I don't know what else she's been in, but I
Oh
haven't seen
yeah,
her in
yeah,
anything
yeah,
else.
yeah.
So it's like
It
you're gonna
was
take that away from her. It's Keaton's return. Like there's so much. It's
Sasha
oh man,
Kaye's.
yeah, Sasha Kaye's. There's probably some awesome like cameos in that movie that you don't just throw it all away because of Ezra. I think they should come out, condone his shit, be like, you don't agree with what Ezra's doing. We've tried to reach out, blah blah blah.
The really
But
sad thing is that like they haven't come out to say it, but like a WB insider has like
mhm,
basically said, "Hey, word on the street is WB does not want to have anything to do with Ezra after the Flash." I'm like, "Yeah, no shit, but
yeah,
say it. Like actually
yeah,
make it
and
verbal."
And the reason they're not doing that is because, like we said, we think they're riding the wave of Johnny Depp stuff, but they're kind of hoping they're like, look, if this girl doesn't end up dead, and she shows up somewhere, and it's all good, and he can stay out until next year, we're in the clear. Because Hollywood doesn't give a fuck, man. If you go and you believe a lot of the stories about Hollywood and all the behind the scenes stuff, it's made up of pedophiles and all of this kind of shit. They don't give a fuck, man. Hollywood doesn't have a moral compass. They're just like, who's going to make us the most money? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? A lot of child stars will tell you that, especially the washed up ones. And people are like, they're washed up. They're not telling the truth. It's like, okay, so people can't get out of a bad situation. Like, what the fuck? Like, we're just going to ignore these people? I mean, Me Too happened for a reason, right? We're going to say everybody there lied. You know what I mean?
Fuck.
And, so I just kind of, yeah, I don't know. But I will say it is kind of weird that WB is waiting on Ezra when they acted so quickly on Johnny.
Yeah.
You know? Nobody gave a fuck about Fantastic Beasts. I'm sorry. Everybody was like, I'm not going to go see the movie because of Johnny Depp. You shouldn't be watching the movie anyways because it's not good.
That
Like,
movie is already like available to rent apparently. Or I think it hit Netflix already. Or no, it was on HBO Max.
that the best thing about that movie was the other male actor that was the lead, like the goofy guy. He was the best thing in that movie.
Yeah.
The guy that made bread. He was awesome. Which I think could have been in line to be Penguin. I think would have been an interesting person to be Penguin. But
Oh shit, yeah.
yeah. But anyways, so there's that. I don't know what the fuck we got on that topic. Oh, Flash movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. So I think those are all the questions. Did you not do Twitter this week? I wasn't paying attention.
I did not do Twitter this week. I need to start remembering to do that. But I think we are ready for comic reviews.
Yeah. We saved my rant for the last book, or
Let's
because you
leave it for
actually don't. I think Clay doesn't see it as bad as I do, so it's going to be an interesting back and forth here. But yeah, we'll save the final thing for last, just because it's probably going to be the bigger part of stuff. And I think two of these books we're going to get through kind of fast. Catwoman 444. Did you read it? I skimmed it. I didn't care.
I skimmed it like
Yeah.
hardcore, just like basically just looked at the panels, didn't even
Yeah.
read. Maybe read every few words or whatever, but like apparent like it turned into a Harley Quinn book really quick.
Mhm.
And I was like, I don't want to read this. That's
Yeah,
not
it
the
wasn't
reason
a
why I'm
Catwoman
reading this
book.
title. Yeah.
Terrible way to introduce Red Claw. For again, I slob on the knob all the time, but we saw that King introduced Phantasm really great from the animated series. This was a terrible way to introduce Red Claw, especially if this is the first appearance of Red Claw in the comics. Terrible way to do it. Should have never introduced this in Catwoman. Red Claw should have been in a Batman book. Like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Because one, there's not a lot of people that care about Catwoman, period, in comics. But two, you could have introduced a really badass female villain in a Batman book, which we don't have too many of those because Batman usually ends up fucking them. So it's like, bring in a character that, Batman's actually going to have some competition against. And Red Claw was a badass in the series. But it's unfortunate she shows up just in a random ass locker room or something like that with Catwoman, and then there's a roller derby bullshit happening. Like, so dumb. At the end of this book, they go back to Gotham because she's like, I got some unfinished business to take care of or something like that, which is probably stuff. But the Bat family's there. They're like, yeah. And then the next thing is called Bat, Cat. So I don't know if this is going to tie into shit in the future. We've heard rumors about things.
We've heard rumors and we've read things.
Yes.
We are not.
Well, we haven't read 45, so we don't know what's going to happen in Catwoman 45.
Correct.
But if things on the internet are to be true, I'm very curious about what happens in 45. But we will talk about Catwoman 45, and then after that, I'm assuming we are going to be officially dropping that book from this podcast. Probably. Because it's not worth reading. Teeny Howard, I'm sorry. We gave you a chance. We gave you our normal 3 books. I think is usually what our limit is.
Yeah.
3 books, and if we don't find your shit interesting, I'm sorry. I hope you turn it around, but you unfortunately followed a really great writer that took Catwoman to new heights. And you want to know what really sucks? Is we had 2 female writers writing Catwoman, and they were both terrible.
They didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, Joelle Jones's was bad. It looked beautiful, but the story wasn't great. Ram V came in, knocked it out of the park. I think a lot of people started reading Catwoman because of Ram V, and then now we have Teeny Howard again, and it's bad writing again. That fucking sucks.
Yeah.
You know what? Bring in Cami Garcia. Just fucking kick Teeny Howard out, bring in Cami Garcia. I would love to see some mysterious Catwoman story. Fuck it. Because I know she writes well, but she's writing all the kid stuff right now, right? So
yeah.
I don't know. Probably for the best that Teeny Howard doesn't have a Twitter presence anymore, or they're not on Twitter because I've tweeted at them before. I'm just like, hey, like if you're going, and this was a long time ago when I saw that cover, I was like, if you're doing this, like I'm just letting you know it's bullshit, and then like I don't know, because it's just typical.
You're part of the problem,
crap.
Juice.
I am part of the problem, okay? But the part of the problem is when you keep putting out bad products, people need to speak up about it. You know what I mean? We have too many people in this world that just stay quiet. They're like, that's the way life is. I don't want to complain. I wish we could sit here and suck up all the great writers there are, but unfortunately, there's not. There's not a lot of good writers in comics right now. I'm sorry, but maybe that's because they don't have full creative control, or they have to follow another writer. You know, there's a bunch of politics, like everything. Politics ruin everything. But you know, it is what it is. So, Catwoman 44, we'll give 45 a chance, but we have not gave a shit about that book. So there's that. Now, going on to World's Finest. Again, I read this book. It's wacky, it's zany, and the only thing that really happened in this book was the Dragon Ball Z moment, right? That's the only thing that happens.
Yes. Well, there's something else that happens with Supergirl and Robin that I am curious about, but like also this book is fucking wacky, guys. It is
Yeah.
like Silver Age. Mark Waid is basically like, hey, there is no actual story. I'm just writing like it is almost like writing a clip show with an actual story plot.
Yeah.
It is wild.
Yeah. It's a nice change of pace though.
Yes.
But you want to know why I think this book works is because it has great art.
Oh, 100%.
I think if this had shit art, like the Tim Drake art that we just saw for his new series, which we talked about this last week, y'all. If y'all want to go see that, I believe that is online already. It's floating around Twitter or some shit, right? Yeah. You can go see the art for the new stuff. Again, we've talked about that artist. They're a good artist, but they're a very themed type of artist. Like they work great in Hollywood, spooky stories, all that kind of stuff. If you're trying to bring in a new story and tell like this crazy serious story of this, you know, LGBT storyline with Robin and stuff, I just don't think it's the best art to pick. But with this particular story that is wacky and zany, Dan Mora kills it and just makes it look awesome. But yeah, so again, I only think there's one. So we know that Supergirl and Robin go back in time or whatever to go talk to these people that put this demon character Zenith or whatever his name was into this, you know, tomb. They're trying to get all the information. They learn a shocking thing that they're going to need to do to seal this person away. And we see Green Lantern just beating the shit out of Superman and Batman. Superman seems to get cut, I'm assuming with some kryptonite because he's weak as hell.
No, so it's basically the demon that they're fighting is his name is Niza, and he is a magic-based character. So he is infusing Green Lantern's powers with magic.
Oh,
so that is how he is able to actually hurt Superman.
Yeah, I wasn't caring about the magic shit. I was just like looking at the pretty pictures. And then I thought it was that one thing you were talking about where like Green Lanterns can manipulate light to make Krypton light or whatever. So I was like, oh, maybe that's what's happening. I don't really know.
That's what I thought was happening until Batman explained what was going on.
So Superman's getting his ass kicked by Hal, and I think Batman was fighting somebody. Forgot who it was. Or he was fighting Niza, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
And he gets away. He has the Philosopher's Stone or whatever the hell it was called. He saves Superman. That looked really cool when he was holding up the thing and it was like this light was going all over the place. He's like, this is gonna give out. You need to hurry up and be Superman or we're gonna die. And they're like, and I thought this was pretty interesting where they were like, we can't beat Hal. He has the most willpower on Earth. He was but does he have more willpower than the both of us?
Yeah, he was like he has more willpower than you. He definitely has more willpower than me, but does he have more willpower than us? And I was like, what the hell does that mean? And then they're like, okay, unified, let's think of one single thought. And I'm like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden Hal Jordan's ring just flies off and I'm thinking, no fucking way. This is impossible. This cannot happen. And I thought Batman was gonna grab the Green Lantern ring, or like Superman was gonna grab the Green Lantern ring. No, you turn the page and they fucking used the Patera earrings and fucking fused, man. Like,
that was insane. Which was really weird because they morphed into like a Batman Superman, but the symbol looks like a dragon on his chest, I feel like. But I know it's the S and supposed to be like a bat symbol mixed together. Yeah. But it looks like a dragon type of thing, in my opinion. And I know we're kind of dealing with these other characters that are from like Asia or Japan or wherever because they're back in time. So I'm like, did they merge to be like this hero from the past? But I don't think that was the case, because I'm like, how would that even happen? So I think the suit is wacky, but it looks kind of cool at the same time. But yeah, it was really weird. And they start fighting, and they're like, they start, I think they just like bitch slap Hal out of the way, and they're like, all right, we got to fight the main demon guy. And they're like, we got to drop him into the tomb. We have coordinates. They're like, all right. And they fly up to the sky, and they're like, oh, we're running out of time. Like, we gotta hurry up. And then like the timer is counting down, and they end up separating. So it's like they both went Super Saiyan, and they couldn't stay in that form.
It's like Goten and Trunks. They only fuse for 30 minutes.
Yeah. And so like they, or what's the new one now? Like when they go God mode, it's only for like 5 minutes. Like, so
oh yeah.
They just so happen to split right at the worst time. And they're about to get destroyed by this demon, and Supergirl comes out of nowhere and saves their life. Now, prior to this, Supergirl and Robin were leaving the portal, and the portal separates them, and Robin falls, and we don't know where he's at.
Yeah, so this book opens up when it shows them, they're talking to the heroes of the past, but like we only get like the very back end of the conversation.
Yeah.
And like Supergirl and Robin are like, who's gonna tell them the bad news? Like, I'm not gonna tell them. You tell them. Like, what are we gonna do? When they went back into that like alternate dimension to go back into the future, a time storm occurred, which is explained to by Supergirl as when somebody is attempting to alter time, time storms do occur in the time stream. And this just so happened to be a very large storm, which separated both Robin and Supergirl.
Yeah.
She is able to make her way back. And when she knocks Niza like down on his freaking back or whatever, she is like, okay, I only have a little bit of time because this motherfucker is about to get up. Like, and they're like, where's Robin? Shut up. I have only a little bit of time. Let me talk. And she's just like, hey, we found where the coordinates are. We need to lock him up. But the only thing is, it can only be locked from the inside.
Yeah. And it's the Brady Bunch at the very end. Yes. With everybody like, dun, dun, dun. Who's going to stay? Who out of that squad is staying? I don't think it's anybody in that squad.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, it's going to be some random person. I would love for one of them to sacrifice themselves, though, because it makes it more interesting.
I mean, that's what it's called. It says next, the sacrifice.
Yeah. Batman's the first person that's sacrificing himself out of that group.
Oh, yeah.
But then Superman's like, no. You know what I mean? Like, Batman's the first dude that's like, I'll die. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, chill. We know you miss your parents, bro, but chill. The world needs you. Like, fuck. You know that's gonna happen. But I feel like it's gonna be somebody from the past also goes through the time storm.
I can see that happening.
Yeah, one of them, or it's gonna be all of them to make sure he never comes back.
Yeah,
I think that's what's gonna happen. Because they had this one shot of them with their heads down and there was a statue there, and I feel like that's the person that ended up sacrificing themselves in their group. So they're probably going to be like, we're all going to go, and he's never going to come back. So I think that's what's going to happen, because they're going to come back with Robin, because everybody's like, where's Robin? And I think they'll sacrifice themselves. So
that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that. But now let's move on to Nightwing, which this was a super fast read, in my opinion.
It was so quick. I actually forgot about Nightwing. I was just like, I read the 3 other books, or I skimmed the other 2 books, read World's Finest, and then I was scrolling through Twitter, and I saw a cover for Nightwing, and I was like, when was this? And I looked at it, and I was like, oh shit, that's this week. Let me go find it. And then I read it. But really, really quick read. We finally get back to a story that we've been wanting to go back to. Didn't really get a whole lot from it, but did get a bigger reveal. Yeah.
Oh, go for it. I was just saying big reveal.
But this story, I really did like this for the fact that like we get a moment where I think it starts off with Nightwing like freaking. Oh well, it starts off where we left off in '92 with
Mhm.
Heartless and oh shit,
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Hey man, like you need to understand that things are changing in Bloodhaven, but we can make it for the best of us. Like,
Yeah.
just need to chill. Like, you may get the brunt of a lot of things, but we can still take control."
Mhm.
And Blockbuster's like, "You think I'm just gonna give you my city?" He's like, "No, no, no, no. I know that. Like, I know it's gonna cost something. Name your price." And Blockbuster's just like, "Oh, fuck this," and he grabs his whole fucking desk and
Yeah.
just tosses it at him. And this dude is like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
And that kind of took me out of it a little bit because there was
Mhm.
a little bit of a funny moment with like this absolute serial killer that we've been seeing.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Because we know
Because he
that
fell stories down too.
he fell stories down. The big reveal at the end, I will go ahead and say it because we're talking about his story, is he comes back like to his lair and
Mhm.
like he's half an android.
Yeah.
Like he is all mechanical and everything else. His like butler or whatever is like, oh, everything seems
He's
good and
Genos
intact,
from
basically.
One Punch Man, yeah.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, but your heart, this heart seems to be going out. Let me go find you another. And at the very end of the book, you just see a wall of hearts, all the hearts that he's been stealing.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm really curious because we have been teased at the fact that he knows Nightwing in some sort of capacity. And
Mhm.
that means that possibly Nightwing knows who he is. So really curious about that reveal. But throughout the book, we see Nightwing uh, wanting to clean up the Alfred uh,
Statue. Yeah,
the
yeah.
Pennyworth Foundation statue, and police come by and they just like no questions asked. They're just like, "Oh, kill him!" And they
Yeah.
pull out their guns, start shooting. And I really like the visual of the bullets not being bullets; it's the words "bang bang," and it's like
Mhm.
whizzing through the air. I thought that was a really nice touch. Uh, but we get a little bit of a new costume here. Nightwing has the Nightwing like leather jacket.
Yeah.
I thought that looked pretty cool.
It
Didn't
it
make
looks cool, but have you ever seen one in real life? They look like shit.
I've seen like the
Yeah.
hero leather
Yeah.
jackets, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I wish they were a little less like
They're
douche
very
bag.
bulky. Yeah,
They
they're very
they
douchebaggy. I
they
agree. I
they
agree.
very much look like and not saying that people who do this as a career are douchebags or anything, but they look like actual like dirt bike costumes. Like
Yeah.
the safety suits, the
Mhm.
stunt suits that they wear. It looks that bulky. It looks like there's a
Yeah.
lot of padding, and I'm sure you need that in case you like wreck or whatever.
I
But
think it needs to
yes,
be tailored. I think if they were tailored to people, they would look better. But I've seen them at Comic Cons before, and they're just really bulky. So everybody that buys them is also usually thinner most of the time. So it just looks really baggy on them, and I'm like, this
and
looks
really
bad,
big.
bro.
It makes the shoulders
Yeah,
look very very pointy at times, and it looks
yeah,
weird. Uh,
yeah. It looks cool in the comics, but that's one of those things I've seen in real life that I'm like, it doesn't look good.
yeah.
So
Uh, but Nightwing does get away from these cops, and the next day or whatever that night, he's hanging out with Babs, and they're just like chatting it up. And there's a moment where what does he say? He says, "Shit." What does Barbara say? Barbara says something. Uh, she's like
when they're
showing him
like,
some. Oh, go ahead. Go
well,
ahead.
is it after they do the whole cop stuff, or on their drive like to Gotham?
It's on the cop stuff. They're talking about the incident, and he goes, "This is, I mean, it's terrible, but it's also great." And it's something that she's done on her
Yeah,
computer. And he's like,
yeah,
"Oh man, I love you." And like their
yeah,
faces, they're both of their faces are like, "Oh shit, I I,
yeah,
I just said that." And she's like, "Oh really?" And he's like, "No, I mean, yes, I mean, good." And like the phone rings, and he's like, "Oh, thank God!" And
yeah,
he
yeah.
grabs the phone. I love this cheesiness here
Mhm.
because it's something that we haven't seen from them in a long time. It's
Yeah.
again reestablishing that this is going to be a relationship book between Babs and Nightwing. We could see something that actually means something between their relationship in the future of this book, and I do want to see it. Let's hope that Taylor doesn't pull a King,
Oh.
and
Well, it doesn't even matter if he doesn't. It's the next person that
that is
takes
true.
over. You
That's
know?
true. That's true.
Oh, we can't have a Nightwing that actually cares. You know?
Yeah.
You know?
But the next day we see that there's a heavy police force,
Mhm.
like freaking arresting kids, and like it's the homeless kids from like the
Bloodhaven.
very first few
Yeah.
issues that we got from Taylor. And Grayson approaches them and is like, "What the hell are you guys doing?" And they're like, "Oh, these guys are all criminals, so we're gonna go ahead and just book them and take them into downtown." And Dick Grayson's like, you have no right. They did nothing wrong. And they're like, "Oh,
Mhm.
we have it on good authority that they actually did a lot of stuff last night, blah, 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 blah." And he's like, "I actually, this is the chief, the commissioner, or whatever, is like, oh, I actually have a heavy media, coming into here, and we're actually going to have a little press conference. We're going to let everybody know how dangerous this, haven has become for the city and
Mhm.
whatnot." And Dick is like, "Babs, you need to do something. Like, go ahead and do it now."
Yeah.
And during this conference, this chief is saying something, or is about to like say, "Hey, this is a bad thing." And Dick Grayson's like, "All of this is a lie. This is all a lie, and I can prove it." And then she's like, "What the hell are you doing, boy? Like,
Mhm.
you really want to cross me? Like, what's going on?" He's like, "Well, actually, I know exactly who did all this, and I actually have video evidence." And she was just like, "No, you don't. There's no cameras here. We like."
Yeah.
And Dick Grayson's like, "How do you know there's no cameras here? Have you checked?"
Yeah.
And like kind of going back and forth. And he's like, "Oh, but don't worry, Chief. All the footage has been released to the public, and all of the identities have also been released. And you start to see all of the identities of the police
Yeah.
officers. This is from last month's, or like, I guess 2 weeks ago when we talked about this, how he like was able to get all of the masks off, and they were like, oh
Mhm.
shit, put the mask on, run, run, run." Um, so that is, seems to be over and done with. Um, and it does show like, hey, Dick Grayson is here to legit help everybody in Bloodhaven, which I still absolutely love.
Yeah, it was crazy that freaking Tom Taylor put the Uvalde police chief in this book, Pretty nuts. Trying to cover some shit up. Hey man, we're still pissed about that here in Texas, y'all.
No
Like, what the fuck?
shit, dude.
They're
Like,
gonna demolish the school. That's crazy. I mean,
did
they
you?
should be,
I
but
mean, did you see some of the shit that's been coming out here in the last
yeah, it's
week?
fucking shit. Dude, it's so crazy. I have a friend that is a cop, usually pretty pro cop. He thinks this whole situation's shit. I was like, what? That's how bad it is. Cops
Yeah,
think it's bad. Like,
yeah.
that's nuts. So yeah, I don't know. We're still pissed about it. Sorry if you're like, don't remind us. I'm like, hey bro, we get reminded of it every fucking day here.
It, again, not very far from us. So
Yeah, not far from us at all. Yeah, they're gonna tear down that school for anybody that doesn't know. Which it should be. And those kids apparently are gonna go to other schools. Like they're gonna be separated into other schools because obviously you can't build a school that fast, I guess.
yeah,
Not in fucking 2 months. So yeah, pretty crazy. But I mean, it's the right thing to do too. There, I mean, we're totally off topic, but they're like, we don't ever want teachers or students to come back to this place, so just gonna demolish it. It's a small town, so it's easy to do that. Anyways, so yeah, that was pretty much Nightwing. At the very end, like I said, we did get a reveal of the Heartless. And do you notice that there was a very big container on that wall for, I'm assuming,
yeah.
Blockbuster?
That's what I
But I
assumed
like that
also.
Heartless was like, there's no point in taking your heart because you don't care about anything. He was like, so I'll just take your city. And so I was just like, but he cares about that. So like, it doesn't make sense that you just said that. But okay. But it's one thing that my biggest gripe that I've had about this whole Taylor series is Dick is just cool with his okay sister, like, or his random sister. We haven't seen anything on that.
We haven't had anything on that, and I
He just,
like.
I should get back there. Okay, like, she works right next to Blockbuster. How is he like? Bruce would be like, "What are you doing?" You
Get
know what I
on
mean?
that.
Yeah. Like, how have you not checked out her background 50 million times and got a DNA sample already? Like,
Yeah.
I just don't understand why that hasn't been done. And you want to know what I fear and what I think is going to happen? The whole story is going to play out. they're gonna have a conversation, and Nightwing's just gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I already checked and confirmed. Like, yeah, the first time we met, I got a blood sample, and like
Fuck.
I found out that you're my sister, and that's why
Please
everything's been going
no.
so good." That would
Please
suck.
no.
Yeah. I hope that doesn't happen because that's something a lot of writers do tend to do. We do
Yeah.
know that Taylor doesn't stick the landing. Granted, I hope he's on Nightwing for a really long time,
Yeah.
but I don't think this story should be stretched out for as long as I want him to stay on Nightwing. You know what I mean?
Oh, one thing that I forgot to say, and it's not like huge comic news,
Hmm.
but Tom Taylor has left Twitter.
Really?
Like
What'd you do
he
now, Clay?
I
Last
didn't do
time,
shit. Not this
last
time.
time,
Not
how
this
did you
time.
get
What?
this?
It wasn't my fault this time. No, but there has been a lot of hate towards him because he is writing Jonathan Kent, who is a
Oh,
bisexual character.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um and he usually takes it very, very well, but he has
Hmm.
stated that they have since gone to like attack his artist, his editor,
Yeah.
and more individuals around the creative team. And so
Hmm.
he's just like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. We're
Yeah.
not entertaining it anymore. Uh, because the one thing that he does is like when people are like shitting on uh, Jonathan Kent's main title, Superman,
Hmm.
the son of Kal-El, he's like, yeah, man, it totally sucks that this is the number one best-selling DC comic currently. And like he'll go to Amazon, he'll go to the
Yeah.
analytics, he'll show everything.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, it totally sucks. And like that's his way of shutting everybody up. Is just like because most people will say the exact same thing.
Hmm.
Nobody cares about your gay Superman. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, nobody cares about this Superman that has sold X amount of copies and is number one on this and number
Yeah.
one on that and number one on this. And it shuts them up quick. So
Yeah. That's the one thing I will commend Taylor for is we mentioned it, and I know we had some back and forth at the start of it of him making John, bisexual. I my biggest thing was like I feel like they're doing it to pop a rating, and he continues the story. It's been what, like 7 months or something since we've had that conversation. Maybe it's been
yeah,
at least a decent amount of time. So I commend him for that, for sticking with it, because that's always been my biggest gripe. I don't care if they make these characters gay. Some characters I would have a problem with. Like if they're just like Bruce Wayne's gay. Like if they're trying to do that in the book we're about to talk about, I'll be like, bro, really? Like that I'd have an issue there. But some of these other characters that are new, especially John Kent, is totally fine. Because he's a newer character. Like, I mean, granted, he's probably been around in the comics, but we don't know a lot about him. And then he got like, zoomed up 7 years or whatever the hell Bendis did. And so, like, this is a totally fresh character, and it makes sense to do something like that. My thing is, I just wish they weren't doing it for a pop. Tim Drake's felt like that because it's been a while since that first original story came out, and then now they're like, oh yeah, during Pride Month we're gonna release a series and stuff. And I'm just like, that seems a little late. I still think they should have done it in a big book, and also Taylor did it in a big book, so I give him even more credit for that. So yeah, my thing is I just wish that they would stick with these things instead of just using it for a cheap pop, as to use a wrestling term. But yeah, so I commend him for that. But dude, I'm not gonna lie. Um, if if my content could survive on YouTube alone and bring in money and bring in new eyes, I wouldn't be on any other social medias either. Because people are toxic as fuck, man. Um,
yeah,
and granted, it's funny saying that as we have a podcast where we do complain about stuff and shit. We've said this before. We do go overboard a little bit for the sake of entertainment. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna sit here and bitch about something right now. It does genuinely upset me, but I'm not like, this writer, burn him in the ground and do all that. It's nothing like that. Like, I wish every writer the best. I don't have to like your stuff. I hope you succeed. I hope people enjoy your stuff. I just don't like it. You know what I mean? And I'm just voicing my opinion, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that writers should be able to write what they want. But at the same time, I think when you take storied characters, legendary characters such as Batman, Superman, they should be written with a certain guidelines in place. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And we're gonna be talking about that right now because a book that we stopped covering. I want to say we officially stopped covering it like what 2 or 3 issues ago because we're on book what 6.
Yeah.
I
Three
think this is
issues
book
ago.
6. It is Chip Zdarsky's Batman, what is it even called? I don't even care what
Batman
it's called.
the
Knight?
Knight.
The
Yeah.
Knight. Batman the Knight. For those of you that don't know, if this is the first time maybe you're listening to this podcast, which, man, you picked a doozy to start listening to us. Um, this book is the early years of Bruce Wayne learning to be Batman. Now, I've had a lot of issues with this because I am somebody that I like the sacredness of certain things not being touched. Clay made the statement earlier, you don't touch Back to the Future, you know? You don't touch My Neighbor Totoro or something like that. I would say you probably don't touch Spirited Away more than My Neighbor Totoro. I feel like you could probably try a live action Totoro like Pixar style or something like that, but you don't fuck with Spirited Away. Um, but when it comes to the Joker and Batman, you don't fuck with their origins. Like, Joker does not have a solidified origin. A lot of people like to say that it is Alan Moore's The Killing Joke, and a lot of people are kind of being like, yes, that is his origin. But there have been other origins throughout time, and what modern day writers have done, they're like, oh, how about we just write Joker as saying that he has done multiple different things so nobody really knows his true origin? He'll bring up the Red Hood stuff. He'll bring up being a criminal. He'll bring up this. Like, he has multiple origins, and that adds to the mystique of the Joker, right? So that is pretty cool. When it comes to Batman, you know he trained for over 10 years, right? Like, some people will say it's 12 years, some people will say it's 20 years. I like to say it's 12 years of straight fucking, just training. Um and he trained every day, fucking learned to sleep better, whatever. But you don't touch those 12 years unless it's like small specific stories. Chip Zdarsky is like, I'm going to tell kind of like the whole thing. And I don't think he's hitting the mark very well. I've complained about how it seems like all these criminals that he's meeting and learning stuff from all know that he's Bruce Wayne, which, if you've watched the animated series or other people, he's always used fake names. He's
Yeah.
changed up his look. He's shaved. He's grown a beard. He's done all of these types of things. And that's not what Zdarsky's doing here. Everybody knows that he's Bruce Wayne, and they're, learning about him. They're like, oh, what are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. And I just don't think he's been doing a lot of great things. Recently, I don't know if this is the same character that a lot of people were saying online that, maybe there's some bisexual stuff going on there, because there was like this one panel where they're like looking in each other's eyes. You know what I mean? And some people are like, oh, is Bruce getting infatuated with this character or whatever? I don't know if this is the same exact character. If you are listening to this podcast and you're actually reading this book, you can confirm that for us. But in this book, they're going to meet like the best shooter or best sniper in like the business or something like that. And they have to go out to these mountains or whatever to find him. And this guy's like, all right, I'll train you guys, but you're going to have to do everything I say. And they start learning. And now a lot of people are automatically going to be like, oh, Batman using guns? That's a fucking no. And I want to say, pump the brakes there. Batman has used guns before. He knows how to use guns. He's actually proficient in guns, but he doesn't use like bullets and all that stuff like the way everybody else does. Like, Batman has things that shoot. Like, it makes sense. You know what I mean? Zack Snyder in BVS has the sniper rifle to do a tracker. Makes sense.
Yeah.
We saw him shoot Darkseid with that one bullet, and he even says like, I don't use guns, but this one time, and that was like some fucking sci-fi bullet that sent him back in time, and we got this crazy ass story after that. But Batman has used guns, but he always says that he prefers not. That's not his thing. But to be the best, he learned how they worked. He knows the ins and outs of all types of guns. He studied them. He knows how to jam them. He knows where their breaking points are, how to take them apart. Like, that's the cool thing about Batman, is there's been issues where he'll like take one part of the gun off and they're like, huh, what the fuck? And it doesn't shoot. And then he's like, oh shit. And then he beats the shit out of them. So he's used guns. He knows how to use them, but he doesn't use them on people. Like, that's his big thing. And so he's learning to use guns here. So I'm like, okay, that makes kind of sense, because there's precedent for this. Well, his partner, or whoever this guy he's been traveling with, is like, I'm forgetting the story because I read this like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but they shoot a deer, I think is what happens. And his friend that's learning how to shoot shoots the deer in the neck, and the deer dies slowly. And the
Yeah.
main guy that's teaching them how to kill is like, "You missed," and he's like, "What are you talking about? It's dead. It's dying. Like it's done. The job is done." He's like, "It's suffering." And then I don't know if that guy killed the deer after that, so it wouldn't stop suffering or whatever. But he's pissed. He was like, "I knew it. I fucking knew you're a killer. You don't care about this. You're a stone
He
cold
called
killer."
yeah, he called him a psychopath.
Yeah, he's like, "You're a psychopath." And he puts his gun on him. And he's like, "Whoa, bro, like we're good. Like, what do you mean? I just, we're just out here training." He's like, "No, I know a psychopath when I see one. And if I let you live, more people are gonna die. And like you need to be put down." And Bruce at this point is like, "Whoa, we gotta chill. We gotta chill, man." He's like, "No, Bruce, like this, I know killers like this, and this can't happen. Like he needs to be put down." And so that guy's got his arms up, I think. This other dude that they're training with is gonna shoot this guy. Bruce puts up his gun, and I'm like, oh, okay, what's this gonna be a Mexican standoff kind of thing going on here? And I thought that's kind of what's gonna happen. But it goes down to the point where Bruce shoots the guy, literally shoots him in his wrist, so he drops the gun or whatever, and then his friend ends up killing the guy, if I'm not mistaken, right? So
Yes.
I think the guy ends up dying
So
still.
like he shoots the guy, he shoots their trainer in the hand,
Yeah,
and Bruce says, "You made me do it. You made
yeah,
me do it." And then his partner, his friend, grabs a gun that he had in his boot and shoots the trainer point blank. And
yeah,
then Bruce fucking loses it. He's like, "What the hell, man? You didn't have to do that. I wounded him, blah 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 blah." And this is where we get this whole story about how, like, he was partially right. I like the challenge of things, and you start to see the psychopath type
yeah.
of mentality with this individual. But keep going, because I know where you're going with the whole thing with Bruce. So go ahead and go.
Yeah, so and then it gets into like a big fight or whatever, and the guy has Bruce doesn't have his gun anymore, and the guy I think beats the shit out of Bruce or whatever, and he has him point blank to shoot him. And he's like, and this could add to another, like, I don't know if they're trying to do a secret love story where Twitter wants this to happen or whatever, because I don't know if it's the same guy. But he doesn't end up shooting Bruce. He has the option to point blank kill Bruce between the eyes, and he's like, ugh, and he like drops the gun or he
He
just
said
walks
it's
away
not
or
a
something.
challenge, and I want a
Yeah,
challenge.
and he goes away, and that's kind of how the book ends. And I thought that was kind of dumb too, but I had already lost interest in this book when Bruce shot the guy. And this is my thing: is that didn't need to happen at all, fucking at all. And I know a lot of people are gonna be like, "Dude, he's learning and he's doing all this shit." He can learn a lesson through this a million different ways, and he doesn't need to pull that trigger. The reason why Bruce is gonna become Batman is because he never wants anybody to have their life taken by a gun again. And you're gonna be like, "Well, he didn't kill the guy; he shot him still. His parents died because they got shot." Batman's biggest thing of no guns is
The
because people
worst
die
part
from guns.
about it is Chip even put in the book, like, "Oh, every single time I'm training with these individuals, every single time I hold the gun, every single time I pull the trigger, I remember that fateful day." And like,
Yeah,
it does a little flashback to his parents getting shot by Joe Chill. And it's just like, how can you have, like, you're right there. You're
yeah,
right there. You're on the cusp of like learning the things that Bruce needs to learn, and you just fuck it up right there at the
yeah.
end.
And the guy still died. The guy he shot ended up dying. So it's like you
Yeah.
might as well have just killed him. Like what the fuck? But here's the thing. The way he could have learned from this is if you were going to kill this guy no matter what, his friend kills him because he doesn't take the shot, right? But Bruce is like, "I can't do this. Like guns are not my thing. I need to be better. I need to find a way that never happens again," right? Cuz it Batman doesn't need to save everybody. I think that's a big misconception about Batman and heroes in general is like, well, Batman has totally killed people before because he didn't save them. Not saving somebody and killing somebody are two different things for anybody that doesn't understand that. That's very different, okay? And in this particular instance, like he could have been like, I could have taken it. Like you could have done the next issue, him having a moral dilemma. Like, should have I used the gun? Like, would he still be alive if I used the gun? Or you go down the road of like, I need to be better. Like that can never happen again. Like I need to be able to spot out psychos and killers the way he did. and you go that route, right? Like you take every bad experience and you make it a positive experience, right? It's kind of like a more thing about life. You kind of just do that. But Chip just like, no, I'm actually gonna have him use a gun, and then how does he learn from this? Like, where does he go? Does he know like, oh, next time I don't shoot him in the wrist, I shoot him in the face? But he was trying to disarm somebody and they still died. Like, what's the learning What? How do you learn now? Does he get a better gun? Does he? There's no lesson here. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if Bruce is not going to use, and again, you said it, he was setting up this like every time I use one of these weapons, I get taken back to the past or whatever. Then why are you going to ever use those? And why did you even pull the trigger? You know what I mean? Like, you could have had, I think, if you wanted to go back to like, showing the past and showing the present, and him not pulling the trigger and people still die. And then he just uses that again. He's like, all right, more people have died because of a gun. I need to learn how to disable these things before this happens. And that can go to his next training montage of meeting somebody else that knows how to disable guns or knows how to, really strike before anything happens, or learns how to really know people are killers or whatever. You know what I mean? You could have set this up for his next training thing, but now what? Is he gonna hunt this guy down, beat the shit out of him? Because like obviously Chip is trying to build a villain for Batman right now, and
Yeah.
I feel like you don't need villains in these stories of learning, right?
That's your doomsday for Batman.
Yeah, I mean it could be. I don't know what the fuck Chip's trying to do, to be honest. Like it just makes no. I don't know, dude. I have no hope for Batman in the future. Like Chip has given me 2 series that I think are garbage. He has done so many things that go against Batman. He made Batman's happiest dream killing the Joker. He just broke his no gun rule by shooting somebody. What's next? What is next?
I I don't know. And that's kind of what worries me.
Watch
Um
Chip be the guy that unmasks Batman and Bruce Wayne is out in the open.
I mean, that's some of the most famous stories for Daredevil is
You know?
Do you know how many times Daredevil has been to prison? Like,
Wouldn't be
and been
surprised.
outed as Matt Murdock, and then
Mm,
like every single time is like convinces the entire state and world like, hey, this is not Daredevil. And
yeah.
then the exact same story happens like 2 years later. It's insane.
Does the
And
world still know that Superman is Clark Kent?
yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible story.
Because of that, everybody calls Superman John.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
weird. I wouldn't
It's so
disrespect
weird.
Superman that way. Come on, man.
It's so weird that like everybody just like, oh, it's Jonathan Kent. Like,
Yeah.
no, that's fucking Superman. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't happen. I think that it's very, very important that Batman, I think it's very important that all of these heroes have secret identities. I know that Marvel does something different, but
Yeah.
like I still think that it's the one classic thing of comics. I'm gonna be the old the back in my day.
Yeah.
That is the one thing for me is secret identities, and I hope
Yeah.
that Chip does not destroy that for Batman.
I mean, when does that book come out? Like we've read
Uh,
future stuff. We have very different opinions on that book. So
yes,
that's
we
gonna be
do.
interesting to talk about. So
So
I don't know,
that
man.
is going to be not next week, but the week after that.
Okay, so 2 weeks. But even for those of you that have not read, I mean, well, for those of you that have been reading Zdarsky, I would love to know what your thoughts are on this whole thing. But I feel like 2 runs of a particular character is enough to know what to expect from somebody, in my opinion. You know what I mean? He has had Batman on 2 different occasions, and I think he's made 2 big blunders, in my opinion. So for me to be able to trust him going forward, I don't think he's awarded that trust. And we know that Zdarsky is kind of a goofy type of guy online or whatever. I genuinely want it because he doesn't do Twitter anymore either. Like he'll tweet something, but then he disappears because he's all about Substack now.
Yeah.
I genuinely wanted to go to his Substack because I know people aren't going to pay to have criticism of people, and I feel like some writers hide behind that. They're like, "Oh yeah, people aren't going to pay to criticize me." I wanted to pay to be like, "Hey, I've been reading your stuff. Why are you choosing to do these things for Batman?" And I wanted to see if he would have responded, but I also didn't want to pay for him. So I was just like, "All right, the model works." But I feel like that's kind of which I understand why Taylor is leaving because just mental health wise, like saying the same shit over and over, having to talk to some people that are insufferable, which I've done plenty of times online,
Yeah.
um, is annoying. And I have learned to where I'm just like, I will see people say something now, and of course I have a response to it, but now I'm just like, man, fuck them. I'm not even gonna respond. Like it's just because you don't want to deal with it. So I understand like why a lot of these guys are probably leaving Twitter or don't want to be there, but I think when it's genuine criticism, I think that's fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be like, "You fucking suck, Zdarsky. Why did you do this?" I'd be like, "Yo, Chip." Like, I'd be a more respectable way. I was like, "I've seen you do these kind of things in these stories. These are very anti-Batman or not core to Batman stuff. Why are you choosing to make these decisions? And is this what's going to be happening going forward?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair question. You know what I mean? Um, I asked him and Teeny Howard like what's going on with Catwoman and Batman in the future. You know, like are there going to be anything there? But they're both not on Twitter, so of course I'm not going to get a response. Because I don't. I just don't understand this idea that those two characters are not a big thing, or like we know Tynan kind of fucked that up, right? But I'm worried about what he's going to do in the future. You know, because is he going to continue what Tynan's doing? Is he gonna maybe put them together? What is Ram V gonna do? Like Ram V's not perfect, but like I'm just worried, and I'm worried about the Talia stuff that's coming in, where she's coming out of nowhere. Like it feels like DC is just trying to make something happen, and I'm just like, bro, I'm just not excited about Batman. Um, Killing Time is gonna end soon, right? If I'm not mistaken,
Uh, very very soon.
next month probably. I
Yeah.
think ends. Or no, maybe August. Because Killing Time 5, I think, comes out when 25 comes out. I
Yes.
think. So we'll be talking about Batman heavily that week. And then there's one more Killing Time. And after that, let's hope that the One Bad Day books are good. Um, because I'm just not excited, man. I'm just not excited from just reading these two series that we've read from Zdarsky. Um, I hope that the art is going to pull us through going forward. Um, and it's going to be a. Have we got a confirmation if it's monthly or biweekly?
No, not yet. Not yet.
So
Which is
you would think the
wild.
solicits would be out already, though, wouldn't it?
You know what? Hold on. Let
The
me
solicits
see.
should be out for future books, I would assume, because what they're 3 months in advance,
Yeah.
so they should be out. But I don't know, man. I'm excited for Detective. That's the only Batman I'm excited for right now. But we'll see what happens. What happens going forward? Because I don't know, man. This Night book and Urban Legends was not great from Zdarsky. And the way he
So
was talking about Batman in one of those interviews too, he was like, "Well, it's Batman. Everybody loves Batman and stuff like that." I'm like, "Well, everybody loves Batman, but it doesn't mean they love every story about Batman." You know?
yeah. So I am seeing the news on 26 is out,
Mm-hmm.
but I am not seeing a date right now. Looking at some stuff.
Probably gonna be monthly, I think.
It looks like Zdarsky like revealed the covers a while
Mm-hmm.
ago, back in April.
But nothing
Uh,
on the actual books.
I'm not seeing
But
anything on the date, on like release date.
it's probably monthly then, if you can't find that, because
Yeah,
we would already be what, like 6 books in if it's 3 months out. So, or at least
yeah,
5. So probably gonna be monthly. Y'all guys know my kind of opinion on monthly books. There's no reason for them to be bad. If you got a whole month to write, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, yeah, man. I don't know. I it's gonna be kind of rough going forward if we're gonna be getting stuff like this from Zdarsky and his run. You know,
It
like what
is
else could he change?
monthly.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 25 is coming out on the 5th
Mhm.
of next month, where 26 is coming. Wait, hold on. Okay, yeah. And then so July 5th, and the next one comes out August 2nd. So a whole month.
Yeah. 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 So he needs to be dropping bangers. But we'll see. What is the worst thing he could do? It's unmasking, right? I doubt they would allow him to kill somebody. You know?
Uh Worst thing you
They
can
already took
do.
all his money away. Tynan did that.
Yeah.
So, which again, that affects him in no way. Like, it's crazy because Batman has no money, right? Or whatever they're trying to pitch here. But the only story we've got where that's been affected is Batman Beyond Nero Year.
Yeah.
That story has more like I ain't got money or I ain't got anything than this whole current like 3-year run of Batman not having money or whatever we've been going through. Makes no sense. So I don't
I
know
I think
what he
the
could do.
worst thing you can do is taking the Batman mantle away from Batman. I mean, from
Hmm.
Bruce.
So he's Scott Snyder's it. Scott Snyder's end, where he gives it to Gordon.
But like that was Bruce Wayne not necessarily willingly doing it though, you know?
Yeah, true, but I mean, he didn't have it,
Yeah.
you know.
But
Well,
I
and he
I
was like subconsciously kind of didn't want it. Like he kind of
yeah.
knew, but he was like, I don't really want it
I
until
think
Duke
that
hit him
I
up.
think the worst thing you can do is say Batman doesn't want to be Batman anymore.
Yeah, and wasn't there the rumor of Shadow War though? Wasn't that the original thing we were talking about that he was going to be out of Gotham and stuff?
Yeah.
Like, what if those rumors were actually Zdarsky's run and not Shadow War? Like him,
Oof.
like doing another Battle of the Cow or something like that.
Like I
Which,
could see like this new Doomsday coming in and like
mhm,
it's basically Nightfall again. Like he
yeah,
breaks the bat
hmm
metaphorically, physically, whatever. And Bruce just says, "Yeah, I'm not going to be Batman anymore."
which would be something that Bruce doesn't do though. So
Yeah.
that would be another one thing. Oh, he gives up. He gives up. That's what you're gonna have him right now. Like, you know what I mean? He didn't even give up when Bane broke him in half. Like, you know what I mean? He was just like, my body just can't do anything, but I'm still in the chair, freaking computering,
Yeah.
doing all this bullshit. So like,
He's gonna
that's the
put
question.
he's gonna put Bruce in such a depressive state where he's like, I'm worthless as Batman.
Yeah.
Thinking of like the worst thing you can do is
hmm
literally think the one person who believes he can do anything believe that he can do nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, at least, dude, I would hate that, especially if it goes down the route of like, I don't need family, which is a very typical kind of thing to do. And Tynan at least tried. He didn't do a good job. He
Yeah.
tried to bring people into the fold. But if we get depressing Batman again, I'm gonna be so mad. Um, yeah, I don't know. That's a question for the audience. If you guys survive this whole podcast, let us know what is the worst thing Chip can do since he's the new writer. But what is the worst thing any Batman writer can do to ruin Batman? But we'll use Chip for this specific thing. But anyways, Clay, what do you got going on this week, man?
So this week, go check out Star Wars Alliance. This past week, we actually reviewed the finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Really, really good series in my mind. A lot of people think otherwise for very racial reasons, which is stupid.
Oh, okay.
Um, but really, really cool series. Really, really cool ending. And I do believe there might be like rumors are true, and that there might be talks for a season 2. Um, so we talk all about that. Um, Go check out next week. By the time you're listening to this, we will have another episode of Ranger Alliance. It seems that there is more updates on like the newer series on Netflix actually moving forward. They got a showrunner. We're going to be talking about that. That's going to be very fun. And let's see here. What else do I got? Nothing else really, man. Just
Nice.
those two things.
On the Star Wars podcast, did y'all talk about the rumor of Millie Bobby Brown joining Star Wars?
No.
My friend posted that in our chat that there's rumors of Millie Bobby Brown joining the Star Wars universe, and I've mentioned it on this podcast. I think there's one person she should play.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was actually I don't know, it's some random website. I'll send it to you. I don't know if it's a real thing or not, but my friend posted it. He might have saw it on Facebook or something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think she should play a younger version of somebody because she looks like them. But yeah, for me, ladies and gentlemen, go subscribe to the YouTube. A lot of people have been subscribing lately from the TikTok videos because they see that I do post a bunch of content over there. So that's been really awesome. Or go subscribe to the TikTok if you don't want to subscribe to the YouTube. But you're already, if you're listening to this on YouTube and you're not subscribed to my main channel, why not subscribe? It's right there, my guys. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for this podcast. As always, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne. And remember, Batman is awesome.
News Weekly.